Here we go. We're on. Okay. Yeah. Keep going. Yeah.
So
The shadow work is it's getting popular, right? Or at least people are hearing about what it is. And there's different classes and books out on it now. It's the quality of the work varies, but it's out there now.
yeah, like a lot of people too, and I was guilty of this for a couple of years, is knowing all the intellectual ins and outs of
Right.
it, but not actually embodying it.
Right.
Talking a good game, so to speak.
Yes.
And
I
then I
think,
and then I then I got into a conscious relationship 2 years ago, and
uh-huh.
all my shit came to the surface.
Yeah, man. That's the best way to do this kind of work is in a relationship.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the container. That's the alchemical vessel.
yeah, yeah.
It's really there's a lot of like, if you don't have a relationship, right, you're gonna have to do this work on your own, and that's
Mhm.
going to be valuable. But then once you do get in one, then that's going to be another dimension of
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Pretty much every last little insecurity, shadow, trauma, all the things I was hiding, I
Hmm.
couldn't hide it anymore. Couldn't hide it.
Well, it also, but wouldn't you say also though, with the relation, in order to do this kind of work in a relationship, your partner has to be
Oh
as
yeah,
committed to it as you, because otherwise it's just going to end real quick.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Like, so here's an interesting story. I never really
Yeah.
told it publicly. Is that
Oh,
my
good.
ex and I, who actually we're still good friends. We still
Mm-hmm.
kind of like work kind of partners, but like we team up on stuff. She's starting a business, but
Mm-hmm.
we I was basically in one of my rock bottoms,
Yeah.
and I had lost pretty much everything. And but her and I had been talking. I had just gotten sober, and I was leaving Missouri. I was living off grid, and
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
and crazy the two of us. Most people like date, or even if
Right.
they do a long distance thing, they do a week with each other, test it out, and then they
Yeah.
get back.
Right.
Yeah, we're nuts. And I just literally fucking moved in with her. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
And on top of
That
it,
happens too.
yes, but usually people, and the thing is, like, we knew going into it, she's an astropsychologist and she studied Jungian
Oh.
psychology over
Mm-hmm.
astrology. It's fascinating. So her and I were like, we were pretty much like, I think we have a soul contract. Like,
Yeah.
so you
There you
ready to
go.
get fucking, you ready to get down and dirty and
There you go.
trigger each other? And but
Yep.
the thing is like
Yeah.
there was no leaving because I had moved out there and I had literally retired my vehicle on a mountain in the Ozarks, and I was going to buy a new one when I got out there. But then I had surgery, and I had a foot of my intestines removed, so I was laid up in bed, no car, and at this point, I'm not working, so literally there's nowhere to go. Like I can't
Right.
escape the shadow dance. Like
Right.
literally, and we were in a like a cottage with basically
Mm-hmm.
like a studio, so with no rooms per se.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like you have a lover's quarrel, you can't go to the couch, you
Oh
know.
yeah. Right.
So literally go to the couch is like right there.
Right.
So I mean it was very enmeshed, but it forced us to just to hash every fucking last thing out.
That's it. That's the same thing with me and Melissa.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes. It's so good.
what was your story?
Well, where should I start?
At the beginning.
uh, uh, my parents were intellectual hippies from Austin,
Mhm.
Texas, and I was born in '69, and they were reading Jung and Joseph Campbell and Carlos Castaneda and Tim Leary and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So I kind of they were actors. They moved us, me and my brother, to New York City, and we grew up in New York City in Manhattan. And but then we moved back to Austin to go to high school, and then I moved to California when I was 21. I didn't know why I was moving there. I thought I was moving there for a job, but I ended up being there because I was a musician, and that was my whole thing was metal music. And so the Bay Area, the thrash scene and all that, that's where it was all at. And I just landed there. So I had 30 years in Bay Area, California, playing music, running a recording studio, mainly a mixing and mastering studio. and just interfacing with the music scene out there, touring. I did quite a bit of international touring, still do actually. And that's how I met Melissa, is through, I was mixing one of her band's albums. But I started doing this kind of work, I think it was 20 years ago, I had a relationship crash, right? A real bad one. And that was like, I think I was 35. And so I was old enough to realize, okay, well, when you get into a real powerful relationship, you create all, it's all this, anima projection, right? You create this whole field of projection and everything. You can't see out of the field. And then, if it crashes quickly, like some relationships just, rise and fall quickly. And then you're like laying on the curb going, what the hell just happened? Who was that person? Who was I? What was I thinking? I was old enough at that point to go, okay, there were all kinds of red flags, but I refused to see them. And I was like, okay, this wouldn't have happened if I had been more conscious. And so how did I not see these things? Because it was like just so obvious once it was over that, I should have known this was going to crash and burn. Yeah. And then, so I wanted to, and then it turns out that a good friend of mine actually knew a famous Jungian named Robert Johnson. And he had brought over one of Johnson's books called Owning Your Own Shadow. And that was left at my studio and from a few years before. Yeah. And, but I hadn't read it yet. It was just sitting there. And that's when I pulled that off the shelf. And then that's what got me into the whole thing. That's how I kind of started. And then I just kind of went from there, and I did other things. I did legal counseling for people and kept doing music. And then, I think Melissa and I started formally in 2012, 2013. And then when that happened, that was a real amazing trip, because we were both that's when we both kind of were like, okay, she had been doing enough work on herself. She also was into Eastern spirituality and all this stuff her whole life. And so we were both at that stage. We're like, okay, we both realized that we're both we don't want to be as neurotic as we are. We don't want to be as unconscious as we are, and triggerable as we are, and developing psychosomatic illness and stuff, and all kinds of, just the bullshit that modern humans create for themselves. And we're like, we're getting older now. And now we realize we have this relationship with two intelligent, thoughtful, introspective people. So let's take advantage of this. And so we started psychoanalyzing each other. And it was just that commitment that we were both committed. And it just kind of like what you're saying about you and your partner just came together like that. And then it was more than that, though. We started downloading all that stuff that was in Shadow Tech. We just started going for nature walks and stuff. And I was already an intellectual, and had been doing legal work, and I could already kind of, use my cognitive part of my brain, my left brain, or prefrontal, however you want to call it. I could already use that good, but just the relationship itself just acted as there was actually some very spiritual kind of weird energy type things that were going on, and stuff like that I could talk about, but we just started downloading. We were just like, okay, let's just figure it out. Let's just crack the code, crack the code, cracking the codes of personal and collective darkness. Let's just really hone this down. Let's start with the beginning. And so we're just like, where does this darkness come from? How do you get wounded? Why do you have these, what are these autonomous functions in the psyche that are creating these things? Where do we find this stuff in nature? And just kind of like scientists going back and just trying to kind of figure it out on our own. And it's like, there's always you always want to reach out and, see what other authors are doing and see what other people are saying. And we were reading other people's work, but we were also really trying to kind of go, okay, let's not get too influenced by other people. And let's just see what comes to us is in this laboratory. And it took a few years before we actually figured out, oh, we're doing alchemy. This is alchemy. Okay. And blah, blah, blah. And it kind of just, and anybody that reads Shadow Tech kind of see how it went and stuff. But it just became a very powerful relationship, a very powerful vessel for that. And now that she's passed, it's like, this is a major kind of, I never imagined that this would happen. I didn't never imagine that she would just, get cancer and just puff out.
Yeah.
So now I'm like having to go back over the whole thing, and I have to go back over all of our suppositions and all of our metaphysics and everything we thought and stuff, and try to, revisit it. And it's like, last thing I'll say on this is that one of the things, there's a lot of, I sort of have like a note called takeaways, and I keep adding to the note of more takeaways, more things that I've learned from this. And now it's like, I'm realizing, okay, it could very well be that we all have a timeline, right? Or like a kind of a sort of I don't know if it's based on an actual time of how long you're going to live, or it's more of like a probability function or something like that. But I'll just say it by this. Melissa had a dream where Death himself, with the sickle and the hood and all that, came to her. And he said, Melissa, it's all about realization. And we had our own interpretation of that. Her sickness, in other words, she had cancer and she's working on all these symptoms and stuff. And Death comes to her and says, it's all about realization. So when Death himself comes to you and says, it's all about realization, we interpreted it as, well, maybe it's not about you dying. It's more about, self-realization, because she was into Yogananda and all that. So self-realization and all that means enlightenment. So we're like, okay, that's fine. And we sort of thought that she wasn't probably going to die. But now it's more like, it doesn't really matter how long you live. It doesn't really matter how much you accomplish. It matters how aware you become of your inner state, how self-aware, how much work you do on raising your consciousness in the amount of time that you have. And so you can pass away at any time. You can accomplish anything, accomplish this or that, or it doesn't really matter. It's all about how much did you do the work? How much did you raise your consciousness? And it's a completely subjective thing. It's your reality. It's your movie of life. And it's your laboratory. It's your world. And it has nothing to do with anybody else, except for the people that are soul, connected to your soul or whatever, your soul path. It's just about your self-realization in the time that you have here. And so with that kind of a perspective, now you can drop all the ambitions and all the things and everything that you think that you have to do and what the ego says you should do, and heal this person, heal the world, do this, accomplish this, all that. That's all bullshit. It's all just about self-realization within the time you have. And the amount of time you have is the amount of time you have. And that's enough time. And that's fine. And that's, kind of a very humbling kind of, kind of realization there.
Yeah, if you it's kind of, that's the foundation of it, like the spiritual growth of it. And when we when we focus on that, then everything else is going to fall in line.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes that line ends earlier than we thought.
Yeah. Right.
And but yeah, it's like in addiction, in recovery, a lot of people, what they do is they get some sobriety, and then they start focusing on their job, and their relationships and all that stuff. And like an underlying theme is like, if you focus on your job or your relationships, you're going to lose those and your sobriety. So if you don't focus on your spiritual growth first, then all that stuff that you're focused on the outside is going to fall by the wayside, and you're going to go right back to being, to using again, and then God forbid, So it's literally all starting within, like no matter what,
no matter what. Yeah, this is the AA philosophy, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Find your higher power, and that's another thing too. Is you know, I kind of think that like self love is also basically, your connection to the divine. You know, and
That's a really big thing right there. Self-love is your connection to the divine.
yeah, basically, I mean,
Yeah,
we
but
are all
right.
God, right? In a sense, we're all
Yes.
experiencing itself, and
Right.
we all have a higher self. And people can go into levels of where the soul is, and
Right.
fear,
That's
and all
unknowable.
that stuff. But I mean, essentially, we're all God. So if we
Yeah.
love ourselves, we love God. So it's our
Right.
connection to a higher power, and
Right.
that's everybody's looks different too.
Yeah.
Everyone has some
That
Eastern and some Christianity involved, and and some pagan stuff and occult stuff, and
right.
and it's really when I got on this path, it was all about just finding little seeds of truth in everything, you know,
Yes.
and every little
Yes.
thing, everything is your teacher, everything.
Yes. Every if you're can be. Right.
Well,
If you're if it to the degree you're not just recycling old viral thoughts all the time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, to the degree that you want to be,
Yeah.
not everyone.
Or even that you can be that you have the because at each stage of growth you only
Yeah,
have
you're only
you're like
capable of
there's
so
like a
much.
ceiling, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. But then, as us left brain people, then sometimes we go into overdrive, and then
Yeah,
now everything has to be an analysis and a
I know.
lesson, and then you drive yourself crazy trying to be too spiritual or whatever.
Right.
So it's like
Yeah, the
finding.
whole left, because you've read my books and stuff, how I'm like just how I am. I have to really control myself on that. It's like when I'm writing a book now. I'll be very organized about it and really try to be clear and accurate and all that kind of stuff. But then at the same time, I know that this is just my subjective movie. This is just what's coming to me, and this is not reality. This is not at all reality. This is just my art, my life art, as Melissa called it. And I just share my life art, and then maybe somebody else can take something from that. You have to approach it with that kind of humility.
What are you writing right now?
I'm not writing anything now. That the last book, Transforming Darkness, that came out in April, and because Melissa and I were just really on this whole healing thing, we were just really focused on that, and so now, and I'm really having to we have a friend and a mentor. Her name is C. Michael Smith, or Mikal, and
Mhm.
he's a Jungian PhD, and he studied in South America in the Andes and stuff, and learned a lot of the shamanistic techniques and culture. He's got a place called Crow's Nest Shamanism in Michigan,
Mhm.
and he was very helpful to us. He gave Melissa counseling the whole time, and both of us really. And when this happened, when Melissa passed, I'm going through all this grieving and stuff. He pointed out, he said, you have to go through loss and grief in order to open your heart and mature your heart. You have to go through that. You can't actually get to where you need to be on the heart path
Right.
unless you experience grief and loss. You have to do that.
Mhm.
So now I really see how that's working. And I mean, I've already, I've grieved over other losses in the past, but this is the biggest one. And it really is completely changing my whole perspective on everything. And now I'm less about information, and I'm more about just deepening connections with people.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm just saying, I'm saying just more about intimacy. I mean, I was always intimate, but even more about intimacy and just deepening connections with people. And as far as counseling goes, I've been doing some kind of coaching since 2009 or so, but now I'm starting to do it with people, in my area. And I only have two people right now who are physical people, but it's like almost all my counseling was online or on the phone for all these years. And now I'm starting to get into the, where it's supposed to be, is one-on-one with human beings right there, face to face. And I'm seeing how much deeper and better that is.
Yeah.
And it's more powerful, and but it's more dangerous too, because you get more opportunity for the transference to happen. And then you have to be able to handle the transference. You have to be able to allow it, but then also be able to set boundaries with it and explain it to the patient, and to work it out. So, but yeah, so that's kind of what's happening with me. So I don't know what I'm writing right now. I kind of was thinking it would be good to take the whole Ken Wilber 4-quadrant thing and kind of really just turn that into a bigger thing than just one chapter, and really develop that into more of a whole program. But I don't know where I am right now. I'm just kind of waiting to see what kind of unfolds.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're going through a lot, man.
Yeah.
Just being with it,
Yeah.
That's one of my big lessons is a type A personality. Go, 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 go is just.
Is that you? Your type A personality?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Some people actually, if they've known me over the last few years, would be like, "Really, you're so laid back."
Right.
Before I really, really had these last few breakthroughs in my healing.
Yeah.
Definitely type A. Always distracted, focused on something, doing, and now I'm trying to just be.
Right. It's a big shift, because your whole physiology gets addicted to all the cortisol, the adrenaline, all that stuff. Like you were talking about with caffeine and stuff like that. It's like you have a natural, chemistry that creates all that kind of hyperactivity chemicals and stuff like that. And then you get addicted to your own chemicals. And then, it's very hard to, this is one of Melissa's big issues too. I would say Melissa was not a substance addict, but she was, I'd say she did have that type of personality. She did have that. And she put it into exercise, and she put it into the drive for music and music production, and doing more stuff with music, and just always having this kind of constant drive and dream and stuff that she's trying to fulfill. That was, it's very, I'm reading her diaries and stuff like that, and I could see she had a very, this is actually kind of not uncommon, is that people who have self-esteem issues can create a kind of a grandiose fantasies right, that are sort of in the background, that's in their journals, or it's in the back of their head, and they're always kind of maybe projecting a grandiose fantasy, and then you meet them in person, and you're like, okay, well, you're a very mellow, laid back person, you're actually self-deprecating and stuff like that, but you don't know that they have all this grandiosity back there.
Well, I went like, I started, that was kind of like my trauma response was grandiosity. Always, and it goes back to like having to perform to get love, and and then so like coming from my dad was a high IQ, and my mom was pretty high IQ and very high performers, and then me getting love from them through that, and then with my high IQ and my energy, then having to just fucking do things nonstop. And I worked in the music business also. And it landed me, talk about grandiose, is it landed me face to face with the fucking, I think the most powerful guy in Hollywood for many years was David Geffen. $10 billion, DreamWorks. Record labels in the 70s and 80s. So I was a pretty grandiose son of a bitch, and I wanted to be a mogul like him. But thankfully, I was an addict, and I had definitely some narcissistic tendencies, and you have some sociopathic tendencies, but I was never a predator. I could never just like be cutthroat.
Machiavellian, right?
I could never do that. I tried. I thought, well, don't get it twisted. I fucking tried. I thought I could do it, but like I just couldn't. I just didn't have it in me. Thankfully, my soul was at some kind of spiritual, growth where I just could never do that. But but I had the grandiose visions, in other words.
Yeah.
And they were
Yeah.
and they were projected outwards, and they were keeping me from doing everything I could to fucking look in here,
Right.
and so
Right.
and then when I hit rock bottom, to jail and prison, then I went from this grandiose person to completely codependent. So now the armor is down.
Oh,
The armor of this grandiose person who's got it all together was totally taken from me, and now I'm this
right.
little child who's
Right.
codependent, and then I had,
Codependent on your woman, you mean?
well, at this point I had gone to prison. I mean, I'm whatever. I have nothing to hide. I stole to get my drugs, and
Uh-huh.
so I had come home with my tail between my legs, and
Uh-huh.
and mommy took me back in.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so that codependent kind of trauma bond from childhood came back now. And instead
Yeah.
of me being anti-dependent, like running from her and not wanting her, because she tried to like, coddle me for years. So I was anti-dependent, it's called. And now
Mm-hmm.
I came home and now I needed help. And so now
Right.
the armor's gone, and now like the codependence came out. So then I
Right.
then I had to heal from that because there was a
Right.
whole trauma bond there.
Right.
And then it played
Wow.
out in my last two relationships because there were still elements of my mom. Of course, we did our mom, in some
Mm-hmm.
respect,
Yeah.
and uh, so that came out like
Right.
crazy. And with my last relationship, she was like almost literally my mom, and she was almost my. I mean, I was her dad. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
and
Right. 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 Oh
she
yeah.
was my mom. And so like her
Yep. Oh yeah.
dad's issues were all playing out in me. He was
Right.
a recovering addict, and he had all his issues. And the
Right.
same thing with my mom, and she's trying to save me and take care of me, and like,
Right.
oh, it's just this shadow dance. But, but yeah,
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 that's very common with Melissa and I. Actually, it was at for the first several years. It was more at the partnership level, but
mhm,
then as it got deeper, then the mommy daddy projections came in,
yeah,
and then the um yeah, then I think I as the wounded part of her that we called sick girl, which is probably the part that actually took her out, is I became sick girl's daddy. And so then
mhm,
a lot of my language and approach to her became more like she was my daughter.
yeah,
And and then she's my little sweetheart, my little daughter and stuff that I'm trying to protect and save and love and all of that. And so then that's infantilizing.
yeah,
And then the other person, because they want the little girl part wants that. If you know IFS, you know how it is. There's a little girl part or multiple little girl parts, and they want that nice daddy attention because they didn't get that
yeah,
before. And so then you're compelled to give that, and then the relationship just feeds the field, just
mhm,
creates that whole thing, and now you're stuck in this kind of yeah, you're stuck and you can't see your way out of it really. And it's like it could be more a more abusive relationship, and you could be stuck in that kind of abusive thing. But it could also be this kind of protective, coddling, kind of infantilizing type thing too. And then neither person can fully pull themselves out of it. And it is until something happens, like a death or a breakup or whatever, and then you can go, "Oh, I see. Wow, we were really projecting onto each other."
yeah. So you did so you saw most of like that enmeshment kind of after the fact, or did you catch some of it while
we
you're?
we caught it all going into it. I mean, as it developed, we
Yeah,
were constantly, filling up notebooks and stuff and doing IFS and contacting these inner parts and figuring out, well, what was going on in the family, and even going back beyond the family. So we were definitely aware of all the different layers or levels of projection and what parts were invoking those
mhm,
projections. But we were not able to extricate ourselves from it.
yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? It's codependency.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
not just the ego mind is codependent on the other ego mind. It's like layers of child parts, and each one is codependent on another
Similar
part.
wounding her. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
And
these
then,
wounds are attached to each other unconsciously, and you're peeling back the layers of it. Yeah. Yeah. It's a
and
lot.
then when you become so conscious of it, to even to that level, and we're obviously not even fully conscious of what's going on, only partially, then you realize most people who have no idea of what they're just flying in the dark with all this.
Mhm. Yeah. I just got a flashback of when I was taking care of my mom, and this is really, it was really unhealthy, but it is what it is my parents got divorced, and then I became like the marriage counselor for them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Really unhealthy. And
But I don't know. You're just filling a vacuum, right?
yeah, but then like they stopped communicating. They were communicating through me, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and like the son
Right.
shouldn't
I
be
see.
shouldn't be
Yeah, no.
communicated through.
Right.
But nonetheless, they actually got back together. All right.
Mm.
So
All
they
right. You
actually
were
remarried
assessing. Yeah.
because of
Uh-huh.
my marriage counseling.
Right. That's fantastic.
But have myself in there. But then it established like a new unhealthy boundary. So when I came home from living on the road, I didn't renew my lease in my apartment, and so I went to go
Yep.
take care of my dad. So now
Yep.
I'm like taking care of him, and also they're like negotiator. So like
Yeah.
when something went wrong, he would like tell me, and I would have to tell my mom. So they got back together, but now I'm like this third party who's like
Yeah.
negotiating. It was so unhealthy. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
when my dad passed, now my mom lost him, and so now
Uh-huh.
like I think Freud went into like the mother and the son and the father, like the son replacing the father, kind of
Yep.
was
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
You can easily, yeah. Oh, yeah. Easily. You can easily do that. Yeah. For
So
sure.
so my dad passing, now I'm becoming the husband now, and then on
Yes.
top of it, adding in now my mom's caretaker. So it's
Yes.
like this really, really
Yes.
convoluted, and like yeah. But I wasn't as deep into all the stuff we're
Mm-hmm.
now, but I was aware enough. We're like, oh my god, I'm basically my mom's.
Yeah.
I'm dad right now.
Yeah. You're dead. It's
And then on
amazing.
top of
Yeah.
it, and then on top of it, just like you had said when Melissa was like filling her dad wound by
Yep.
getting attention from you,
Mm-hmm.
I was also like my mom, I would like I'd put her to bed and then I'd sit and watch a movie with her and like I would scratch her head, with
Yeah.
almost no hair on it, you know,
Yeah.
like as if I'm her husband or
Yes.
her father.
Yes.
Wasn't doing that, and my grandfather was this
Yeah.
staunch Russian, like no, like literally I saw him.
Yeah, I know how the Russians are. Yeah.
I'm actually from Latvia, which is a former
Oh,
Soviet,
okay.
but
Yeah.
similar culture. They're very
Yeah.
serious.
Oh, yeah.
The
Slavic.
only
Yeah.
time they have any fun is when they're on their vodka. You know,
Right.
and even my
Right.
grandfather couldn't laugh when he was drunk. So
Oh,
that
really?
that's the really really uptight, shame-driven household my mom came from.
Uh-huh.
She didn't get that. So now,
Right.
like filling that void of being very fatherly and protective,
Oh,
and then I'm also filling the void of my father who just passed.
yes.
It was a shit show. There's
Isn't that amazing? Every man can, carries all the different male roles in him. And depending on what the relationship requires, that will turn on and
yeah
he'll serve that function. And if the relationship requires a different man role, that will turn on and it just activates automatically. And
yeah,
it's just incredible how that works.
and like you were saying, like especially when you're taking care of a loved one as they're dying, there's
Yeah.
nothing you can even
Yeah.
do.
Oh,
Like
you can't, you
what are you
can't, you
gonna do?
can't
Step
be,
back and say we're getting too enmeshed? No, no, no. Like
no.
you need some silence and solitude, and you go in the woods and to be alone. No,
No.
your mother or your wife is dying.
Yep. And
You
it
just
is a little girl part that needs to be rubbed. That's
yep,
what you do.
yep,
Yeah. For the last actually few months, actually, we did this thing where, um, because as she got a little more sick, her little girl parts became even more needy, and we would just, but I realized that, well, what we did was we would just sit over here on one of these couches here, and I just made a commitment to her. I said, okay, because I was out in the shed over here doing music and stuff, and a lot of times, and I would say, okay, well, every night before dinner, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to sit with you on the couch. I'm just going to let you, put the devices down, no reading or watching or anything like that. Just sit on the couch and you just put your head on my shoulder and I'll just pet your head,
Mhm.
and just, you can just tune in to daddy that you didn't really have too much time with, and just tune into daddy. And then that just relaxed a lot of her anxiety. So we do like 30 or 45 minutes of that every night. And then she would go in the kitchen and cook dinner. And that was a real good, because there was a lot of, I now realize that the body was slowly shutting down, and there was part of the body, or part of the psyche, was saying, I'm scared. And so
Yeah.
she was, her teeth were chattering and stuff
Oh, yeah,
sometimes and all
yeah,
that. So that was a very calming thing to do, that you would, if that would be a temporary thing that you would do if we were in a different situation. But yeah, but it was a good thing to do at the time. So yeah, there's
yeah,
a time and place for all these modes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Well,
just,
you're very aware, Andrew, and your story is very compelling, and you're very genuine to me, and I think I'm really glad you're doing this work, and that you're sharing your stories and your wisdom with other people, because in this shadow work area and stuff, I think there are some really good people actually in it, but there's a lot of people that are just like, hey, this would be a good business for me. I'll just read these books and then I'll teach this, and they're not really ready for that.
I'll be honest. I almost tried to do that, but I couldn't do it. Like I literally
Yeah,
2, 3 years
right.
ago, I had all the
Yeah,
knowledge, but I didn't embody it, and
yeah,
I think the universe just shut me off, anyways.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, you're not doing this now, because again,
yeah,
I'm not a good salesman. Like I tried to be in the music business,
yeah,
I couldn't do it anyways. But now it's
yeah.
like, like you're embodying all the shit, all the stuff you went through.
Yeah, we just have to just really just keep committing to the work, and just keep just being as natural about it as we possibly can, I think, is the way. And then whatever we're supposed to do will be. I actually had some notes I wanted to talk to you uh about the what did I write here? I just had some different things that I I had. Oh, subjects: death, talking about that, self-healing, obviously, being a healer, we were just talking about that, lessons from Melissa, I think we've talked. um I think I have a couple of paragraphs. Let me just read, see what I wrote here. I wrote, on healers, regarding helping others, we counselors must stay incredibly open and humble about our work. We do not change other people. We do not heal other people. We provide some kind of guidance which they cannot even fully accept. They have their own unique path, and we are helpers that they are contacting briefly, picking up something and moving forward, rather than giving people the idea that if only they will learn our system, they will feel better or be healed, which is untrue. It's better to help them recognize that they are on a lifelong self-healing, wounded healer path, and that they will mature and heal incrementally in relation to how much responsibility they take on for their own path. This is their movie of life. This is their alchemical laboratory, not ours. We are giving them an example of what we have done in our laboratories to inspire them to do something similar, but we cannot tell them exactly what they should be making in their laboratories. We teach and inspire by example. Naturally, people tend to project savior, parent, mother, father onto healers, and that transference is sometimes a necessary part of healing. But we have to be extremely conscious of the fact that other people are projecting onto us, and allow that, but then also explain to them what's going on and keep proper boundaries. We healers must be conscious of how we can become, we healers must become conscious of how we can become needy of clients and keep them hanging on in a codependent relationship.
Absolutely. And literally, you very eloquently said what I've always, well, not always, I've come to live by,
Yeah.
is that everyone has their own healer within them. You know,
Yeah.
we're just here to inspire them, to guide them, to show them, what worked for me, to help them find out what works for them, even if it's something we're not used to. And also
Right.
to be humble enough to be like, hey, this is out of my scope.
There you go.
I can refer you to someone who could
Yeah.
go deeper into this, into this element of healing, as opposed to
Right.
being like, I need clients.
Yeah. It's a real problem, because if you're dedicating yourself to studying psychology and spirituality and all the things that we study, and you're dedicated, you're making it your whole business in life to do that. You need to have some kind of economic reciprocity so you can pay the bills and stuff. So that's just, but then at the same time, so that means what we have to do, especially if we're in a field that's not very lucrative like this, is we have to be very conscious of our overhead and our footprint and stuff, and really be as efficient with our own lives as possible, so that we don't have, high economic. We don't want to have a lot of bills and economic contracts and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, and a red pillar is coming
yeah,
up with that, like, money's
yeah,
evil, scarcity,
right,
stuff that, like, now you're like, because, oh, healers, shouldn't charge, and it's like, no, bullshit, because we have to
I
eat
have to.
too.
You
We
have
have
to
to
eat
eat,
too.
and plus, like, we have dedicated our lives to so much we've experienced and studied, and it's just like, well, if you put $100,000 into your college education, we won't go in there and talk about how useless that's become these days.
Yeah, it
But
is.
but nonetheless, you invest all your money into it, so people are going to understand that when you come out of college, you invested into a business, and now you're the business essentially, and now
Right.
you need to you are the business. So
Yes.
healers need to they are a business, but also
Yep.
people need to understand that, like, it was one of the biggest roadblocks I find is, and it was with me as well, is that, like the ultimate investment is your health, and so
Yeah.
if you're not, like, investing into your health by hiring a coach or a therapist or whomever, and to whatever degree you hire them, once a week or
Right.
whatever
Right.
it is, though, you're like, understandably, people look at it as, oh my god, I can't afford this right now, and maybe
Right.
you kind of can't, but if you are investing into your own health, then in a couple of months you're going to be far more conscious, you're going to find new ways of making money, and if you're on that path, you're going to be rewarded. And so, like, it was scary for me in the beginning when I really started taking my healing serious, to invest into it, knowing that, like,
Mm.
my money's really tight, but I know that down the road it's going to
Yeah.
pay off, because I'm going to be
Yeah.
that much more conscious and aware and able to generate revenue down the road,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So it was that
Right.
initial investment, that scary, investment into a startup business. I'm the startup
Yeah.
business, my health.
Yeah.
And so it's getting people to realize that too. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
that,
I'm with you on that.
that's
Yeah. It's this whole, and then, we have, yeah, that whole thing, the whole business of healers, whether, mainstream or alternative, it can be, there's a dirty side to it for sure. And so we just have to, as long as we just stay as clean and conscious and non-parasitic as we possibly can, and just do what we're here to do, then it'll work out, and
yeah,
then it'll be fine.
yeah, yeah.
And see what else I had on here. Red pillar. You mentioned red pillar though. Oh, let's talk about that actually. It is yeah, the I keep sort of, I have this thesis. I have this video called Two Paths for the Red Pilled Initiate. And it's kind of like, the one path is what I call the culture warrior. It's the activist, right? That says, okay, I found all this shadow stuff out in the society, all these psychopaths and other creepy parasitic stuff. And now I'm going to tell the world about it and protect people from these parasites. It's like the Alex Jones level or whatever it is, the activist role. And that's kind of like, once you get red pilled, that's kind of the first place you go, and you're like, oh my God. And you just start,
Yeah.
freaking out of the whole thing and wanting to tell everybody. But then there's another path, and that's the sort of the shamanic wounded healer or alchemist path or whatever, where instead of focusing completely on the shadow of culture, the shadow of society, you focus on the shadow of your own psyche and in your relationships. And that's a deeper level initiation. And I kind of theorized that it seems like it would be easier for the red pill people who already have a kind of some tolerance for evil and darkness to actually turn it around and then start doing the work on themselves rather than more mainstream or normies or whatever that, you know, are still in this cognitive dissonance. And maybe it's true, but maybe it's not as true as I wanted it to be, because I don't necessarily, but at the same time, I guess people that do get into the shadow work and into the inner healing and stuff like that, it's very helpful if they're already initiated into the cultural shadow, if they're already red pilled, because then you can kind of get into domains. You can use the as above, so below kind of tool and be like, okay, you know how the deep state works out there? We'll kind of imagine it in here. And you can kind of use these tools that you can't use with other people who are still kind of locked in this kind of protective cognitive dissonance, you know?
Yeah, I've that's been, oh, well, it was a frustration. I guess it was actually, it's funny, that in as above, so below, within, without.
Yeah.
I would be so frustrated with activists not doing that work. But then I came to realize that I'm just frustrated with them and projecting on them because I'm not doing the work.
Okay, good realization. Essential realization.
Yeah, yes. I was like, well, why don't you start doing the work instead of just talking about it and writing about it, and maybe become an example for these red pillars and try to draw them in. And because, I mean, we are more willing to look at the shadowy sides of the world, but unfortunately, it's almost like it's. I actually just wrote about this. I think you might have even read it. Is that it seems to be easier to be the victim, you know, to be the victimizer, right? So it's also it's easy to look at everyone else, of course, than it is to look at yourself, you know. So it's kind of like a similar thing. So it's very easy to look at and blame everyone and point fingers at all the evil people for all the things in the world.
Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, and just stay on these bad guys out there.
You know, and all the conspiracy theories. So it's like a real fine line. It's like, yes, we were willing to look at all that stuff more than most people, but then that becomes the new addiction, you know. And so that replaces. So when I got sober, replaced it. That absolutely replaced it. My new addiction was conspiracy theories and activism. And traveling, literally, you know, the expression destination addiction, you know, where you try to change your scenery, forgetting that like you're bringing all of your stuff with you.
Yeah, wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm traveling the country. I used to run an NGO and of all these crazy anarchists. That was maybe another podcast. So it was infiltrated by the government and deep state.
FBI got in there.
Government assets, CIA.
Yeah. They got in there, huh? Yeah, they get into those things.
Oh yeah, but I was traveling the country trying to save people in all these places, you know, and like it's like, you know, what happened was, going back to when I came home to take care of my dad, is I came home with severe MRSA. I don't know if you
MRSA.
Yeah, it's like staph infection on steroids, and I have boils this big, like all over my body. Yeah, like.
How'd you pick that up? What is that?
Well, I was working at ground zero of like 6 major hurricanes in a row. So you remember Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, Hurricane Harvey in Houston years ago. So I was traveling the country, and so probably a little bit of being in areas with high mold. But then also I'm literally at the ground zero of thousands of people's collective trauma. And I'm literally running aid operations. I'm literally a distribution center where hundreds of people a day are in and out getting aid from us. And so,
Okay.
and then we're
Wow.
sitting there hanging out with them, talking to them. So we're just absorbing all, and we're not doing self care. We're running on
Right.
empty 18 hours
Right.
a day, smoking weed at night, drinking a little bit here and there, like
Right.
medicating. So we're just collecting and collecting and collecting all their energy. And I'm sure it's
Mm.
triggering our own shadows. Now they're
Yeah.
starting to come to the surface and we're not integrating it, certainly. So now
Right.
it's causing all of this physical illness and disease.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Wow.
my ex, I used to run operations with her, and she, without going too much into it, she had a severely traumatic upbringing, like Melissa. So
Hmm.
her stuff was coming to the surface, and we're working on it, but we're not really working on it, So it was just this complete, what's the word I want to look for?
Clusterfuck.
Well, yeah, it was more than a shadow. It was a cluster of shadows, of everyone's shadows, my shadow, my ex's shadow, all not being integrated and just causing physical illness.
Oh, yeah, man. So then how'd you get rid of the staph infection?
Um, believe it or not, after we broke up,
Oh,
like
okay.
we literally, because our relationship had gotten so toxic and
Yeah.
integrated, and it was fascinating. Like we're all courted, especially to our lovers and to our mother and father. And
Yep.
I would get she lived in Texas. I lived in New
Mm.
York, and so she would travel, go to see her kid. And I pulled her up one day, and I'm like, I have a fucking boil down here on my hip, and she goes, "That's so weird. I have literally the same exact boil right now, just starting to appear.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah. Yeah.
thousand
Yeah.
miles away.
Yeah. Yeah. I know how that works. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We're
Absolutely.
picking
Yes.
up a rush for
Psychic. Yes.
yep, quantum entanglement. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
where in the universe you
Yeah.
are. We're
Yeah.
we're in both, inhabiting the same particles.
Right. Right.
So
Or whatever emotional or otherwise psychic
exactly.
content that you're both sharing is
Yep,
showing itself through that
exactly.
physical symptom. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so we were not ready. We were starting to do work, and if I'm going to be honest, I actually was trying to save her because it helped me from looking inward. So it was this kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
codependent
Yeah.
savior complex, both of us,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so we both, finally ended it. And then
Yeah.
now we had time to, like, for our nervous systems to calm down a little bit and to look inward and all that stuff. So then it went away. The core.
Right. Oh, it just, did you take antibiotics or anything like that for it?
Well, actually, you know what? I have actually Lyme disease also.
Oh,
I
are you
got
sure that that's not some
Yeah. So I don't.
bullshit
Yeah.
mind
So
virus
I'm,
that
I'm
the
like
society
I'm
has just picked up?
I'm so fucking I'm so on the fence. Like I don't know. I don't know
Some
what
of
it is.
these things are cultural viruses and we pick them up.
Yeah.
Remember
Oh yeah.
carpal tunnel syndrome? Everybody thought they had that. Remember that? All the cashiers were all wearing, I'm getting my surgery soon. Where's that now? It's just
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah. I don't know. My mom had Lyme's in the '80s, but she got bit by a tick and she got literally the big bullet, as they call it,
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
and then she got Lyme disease afterwards, and she had neuropathy and
Uh-huh.
fibromyalgia and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got bit by a bunch of ticks, and then I got it. So I
Uh,
mean, so it's like it's
Yeah, it's kind of a
more,
combo deal. It's like an environmental trigger for
yeah,
something. There's a psychic component and an environmental component. And if
absolutely
you
is.
don't have one, if you don't, you need both to make it actually happen.
Mhm.
Something like that, right?
Something like that, and then you have the whole thing with, like, what do you call it? Germ theory and terrain theory
Yeah.
and do
I don't know where I am with
viruses and
that.
all that stuff exists.
Yeah.
I think
I don't
actually
even know where I am with that.
I don't fucking know either.
Yeah, that's that one. I'm not sure where I'm at with that
I
one.
don't
I
know.
know, I know I'm not a flat earther though.
I'm not either. I'm not either.
I didn't think you would be.
No, I just we can go into an hour of the cult of that, and the psychology behind that. But as far as
Oh,
lines go,
yeah.
I grew up at the supposed um what do you call it? Military lab where they supposedly invented it or weaponized it.
Where
Uh,
they invented what?
Lyme disease.
Lime? Lime.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So,
Rhode Island or something or
yeah, so it's called Plum Island, and
Plum
Plum
Island.
Island is off the coast of Lyme, Connecticut, which is where
Oh,
the first ticks with tick
Yeah.
bites, you know, with things so
I see.
up.
Right.
Some people say it's a conspiracy theory, a psyop to get people to believe it
Yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
to capitalize on it. Uh,
Right.
I don't know because I just happened to get bit by ticks and I showed symptoms.
But you already were familiar with it from your mom.
Yes. Yeah.
So it was already kind of an implant was already in
Yeah. So
there.
that's possible. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it could have been a psychosomatic kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've gone back and forth on that too. I was totally on this. I mean, obviously, most people default to the physical. It's all physical. That's what they default to. That's the in our culture. But then I flipped all the way to no, all these things are psychosomatic. They're all psychic. They can all be
Mhm.
fixed through inner work. And now I'm kind of more in the middle with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's where I am now, and my symptoms have dramatically improved over the last 2 years. And what's the difference? Is all my inner work,
Yes.
all my fucking inner work, all the emotional
Yes.
coming up.
Yes.
I literally had a neuropathy in the back of my heart. So
Oh.
my dad died, my mom died, I lost my girlfriend, I
Oh
lost my
yeah.
business due to lockdowns,
Oh
and I was
man.
homeless because I was living in my parents' house in a retirement community, and I'm not of retirement age. So as soon as she died, I got kicked out. So
Oh.
everything fucking so
Oh,
literally those
brutal.
heartbreaking
Brutal.
things all at once, right?
Oh, major dark night of the soul. Yeah.
Oh God, it's been a dark few years of the soul coming out of that.
Wow. Wow.
All the death,
You're doing really good right now then.
thankfully, man. But
Yeah, man.
so my heart was literally broken, like literally, heartbroken about your mom who just died, and your ex-girlfriend just broke up with you, and all that loss. So whether it was a
Mm.
tick or not, some
Yeah.
kind of psychosomatic, psychospiritual illness attacked the weakest
Yes.
part of my body. And what was the weakest part of my body? My heart at that time.
Yes.
I was
Yes. 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 Exactly.
so,
You're on it. Yes.
so whether it was the tick, it's chicken and egg kind of thing. So was it the tick,
Yeah, it is. Right.
or the tick trigger, the
Mm-hmm.
symptoms, but the symptoms were already going to come out in some way or sure. I don't know.
Does the psyche even attract the environmental condition that it needs to trigger it? In other
That's
words, if a tick can trigger this, like in some people, most people, the immune system will just take care of it.
yeah.
But in your particular case, because of your whole psychic structure and your particular pain body and stuff, that could have been like the perfect trigger, the perfect virus, so to speak, that would get into your system, and your pain body just attracts it to you. And so then you have that. I don't know. We don't know.
I
None of
don't
us
know,
know.
but I will say this is that I uh I attracted it, not just in a state of grief, but also
Yeah.
in a state of fear because I had uh, gotten into a huge argument with my ex. We had broken up,
Uh-huh.
and she left the Airbnb we were at, and I thought she was like coming back, and we were gonna argue more. So I literally
Yeah.
got up and I fucking went into the woods to go meditate. I mean, I did go meditate, but that was my excuse to just not be there when
Yeah.
she was coming.
Yeah.
So I went there in extreme like dread and terror.
Oh yeah.
So
Right.
my vibration, my frequency was
Oh, there you go.
so low. On top of the
Right.
grief, now I'm running from the grief
Right.
into the
Right.
woods, and I
You've
happened to
kind of
be
honed it down to the state and the time.
yep,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see.
and I
Mm-hmm.
happened to be in the epicenter of the ticks monster.
Oh,
I was in the Hamptons, right, the Eastern Long Island,
okay.
which is the
Uh-huh.
worst, which is the epicenter of it on planet Earth. So
Oh,
it was like the
really?
perfect fucking storm for this initiation into Lyme disease.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, when I first heard about Lyme, this lady told me it was like when I was in the San Francisco Occupy movement,
Yeah, I was.
and remember Occupy?
Oh yeah, I was at the very, very tail end of it.
Oh, you're at the tail. Yeah, I was probably in the beginning, but there was a lady that said, oh yeah, I have Lyme and all this, and her whole victim mentality, and I was like, yeah, right, sure. Do you know John Sarno? John, the yeah. So this guy he was a back doctor,
Okay.
and he has his own little kind of cult following here. He's dead now, but he was a rehabilitation doctor, and in New York at NYU or somewhere, I don't remember where, but um, and he noticed, he was like, okay, well, half the people that come to see me and they say they're in terrible pain, there's something wrong with their back. I x-ray them and I don't find anything wrong with their spines. And then half of them do have something wrong. And then he's like, okay, I can't really explain this. But then he eventually ran into this meta study from Denmark or something, where it was showing that it was a study of people who had gone to the hospital for one thing, like, they broke their wrist or something like that. They give them a scan or whatever, and then they find out, hey, you have this, did you know that, disc number 2 and 3 or whatever are completely fused and that you should not even be walking right now, or whatever the deal was? No, I didn't even know I had that. Did you have an accident? Yeah, I did, but I healed from it. Well, it looks like your back is, well, I don't feel anything. And the amount of people that would have actual physical problems, but not know they had those problems. Yeah. And then there's people that Sarno and other doctors are seeing that they're complaining about having problems, but there's people that do have problems, physical problems, and there's people that don't have physical problems. Some have pain, some don't, and it's like it didn't make any sense. And so then that's what caused him to start to say, okay, there's something psychological going on here. And so that kind of took him into kind of Freudian psychology, and he didn't get too advanced into the psychology part of it, but he developed this theory of psychosomatic symptoms. And then he basically was concentrating on back and leg and neck and shoulder pain and that kind of stuff. And his theory was that people who have a lot of repressed rage, that the body will displace that rage into your physicality, and then you'll develop a pain, a muscle pain or whatever. Then over the years, he started to add all these other kinds of symptoms. He's got fibromyalgia. I don't know if he's got Lyme disease in there, but he's got all these other, carpal tunnels in there, and just all these other symptoms that people get, syndromes that they catalog now. He says all these are potentially psychosomatic. In other words, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that the body is pushing your stress, your trauma, your rage into the body, and you're manifesting that symptom. And the type of symptom you develop depends on your personality type and what your particular trauma is and all that kind of stuff. And it was that whole thing. And so then the cure for it is basically awareness. First, believe in the theory. First go, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. This is psychological. Then start doing basic shadow work. He didn't call it that, but start finding out what's the source of your rage? What's the source of and now I would add other emotions to that, grief and fear and other stuff like that. What is the source of those? And start digging into that. And then if you do that, then the symptoms will be alleviated. Yeah. And my dad actually turned me on to that, 25 years ago. And I started using his symptom. That was probably my first actual kind of shadow work that I was doing, because I had this right back shoulder pain right here. And it was like, is it why I'm driving, put my hand on the steering wheel? What the hell is this? Figured out it was, psychological. And then once I became aware of it, that short circuited the whole thing. And one morning I woke up and the pain had shifted from my right shoulder to my left shoulder. And I never had pain in my left shoulder. Nothing was wrong with my right shoulder suddenly. And then it was all over here. And I'm like, okay, Sarno's right. And I'm on to this thing. I got this little virus, on the run now. And so, and then it went to my knee, it went to my elbow, went to every place I ever had an injury. And then I was like hooked on the theory. And then I, started giving books to people and explaining it to other people. I taught Melissa about it and all of that. So I've been kind of living by that. Yeah. But that theory kind of puts every symptom is psychological. And, unless you really, dropped a hammer on your foot or something like that, that's not. But then you have to ask yourself, why did you do that?
I was just going to say that. Yeah. Right. What was going on? Yes. Subconsciously.
Right. So everything is psychological, but now I kind of have to back off from that a little bit and say, no, maybe it is all psychic because the psyche is everywhere, but there's only so much you actually have the ability to bring under control.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know, you did not have the, you know, maybe your Lyme disease is fully psychological. Maybe it's part psychological, part physical, but by believing, but you only have so much capacity to actually do the kind of work that you need to do to fully heal it. And maybe you will develop that capacity, but maybe at the current time, you don't have that capacity yet. So just because you know about that theory doesn't mean that you can just alleviate all your symptoms instantly.
Yeah. And you know what? Like having grown up on Long Island, having my mom had Lyme's, it was fully
programmed.
I
Right.
literally saw my mother bedridden for a couple of weeks after she got bit with their steroids and all stuff.
Yeah.
And she, what do you know? She not so coincidentally died with fibromyalgia, you know, and neuropathy. And that's literally the major two, like neuropathy is the major symptom of Lyme.
Yeah.
And untreated, it leads to fibromyalgia, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's a neurological thing. Essentially. And so now that I'm getting bit, I'm going, oh no, I'm getting bit, I'm gonna get Lyme's. And so I'm freaking out.
Right.
You know,
you're just triggering it. Yes.
Yeah, manifesting it in a sense. Whereas maybe if if I got bit by a tick and I didn't grow up and didn't have my mom, oh, what's this stupid little thing, you know? And I wouldn't even think about it, you know.
Right.
So it's
I guess you could also interpret it. You could use sort of the Jungian analysis on it and go, well, what if this was a dream? What would it mean? What would that tick symbolize? And what would my reaction to it symbolize? And you can kind of maybe analyze it that way too.
I think, and also the Lyme's, whatever you want to call it, it's actually, I beat the hell out of my body throughout my life, just being very physical. I have been to the hospital 20 times. I have so much trauma stored in my body, and I've suppressed it so much with drugs and alcohol and distractions. And the Lyme has forced me to get back in touch with my body.
Yeah.
What I'm finding it does.
Right. Good.
It attacks very vulnerable areas of my body. And so anytime I get a neuropathy pain, I literally now think, well, what's going on over here? You know, what does that represent? Right. Oh, it's the sacral region. Sacral region, we hold on to fear and shame.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So am I suppressing something right now?
Right.
And lots of time, I will hash it out, and then it'll go away. You know?
Yes.
So
yes, absolutely. So the more minor symptoms you can alleviate that way.
Yep.
But even the Lyme disease, which comes from your mom and it's in your family and all of that one's more programmed.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. But even like the heart neuropathy that I've gotten, its magnitude's better. Why? Because I've been making every attempt I can to be coming from a place of heart consciousness now.
Yeah.
So it's forcing me, this disease is what forcing me to be more in touch with my body somatically and be more in my heart. You know?
Right. What if I call it a symptom rather than a disease?
Yeah, exactly. I don't. Yeah. Now you're telling your subconscious mind, that you have this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that could backfire.
Hey, I was looking at my notes here. If you want to bring Nicole in, we can do that too. If she's into it. I wrote a Matrix Life here. I wanted to ask you about this. So people who are doing work on themselves, right? A lot of this is because they are basically fucked up because of the way they were brought up, the way they have to perform in the society, the way they're totally stressed, the way everybody's running around like a chicken with their head cut off, and all of the fucked up values of the society at the current time and all of that. And they're trying to basically, not even to mention the food and all the other crap. And they're trying to basically clean up themselves. And then, but how do you clean yourself up and then go right back out into that environment? You can't do that. You can't just live the matrix life and stuff like that and then go, man, this is making me sick and I don't even know who I am anymore. I need counseling. I need to do shadow work and then go back to work for Microsoft or whatever it is that you're doing. And it's like, no, it has to be a total kind of 4-quadrant kind of approach to absolutely simplifying and naturalizing your life and basically extricating yourself from the matrix to a great degree, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, it's what my process has been, and this came initially from an activist perspective who's trying to take down the deep state, right?
Yeah,
But
right.
from a hermetic standpoint, um, you when you give them your attention, you give them power.
Yes.
Whether you're even speaking the truth, that doesn't mean we shouldn't speak truth. But when you're
Right.
doing way too much, you're giving them power. And
Yep.
obviously, when you're consuming their products, their
Yes.
services, when you're
Yes.
paying attention to those things, you're giving
Yes.
them power. So
That's
my
right.
initial approach was to remove their power from my life,
Right.
and at the same time, that stuff is bad for you anyways. You know,
Right.
so
Right.
I stopped. So I saved money. I stopped empowering them, and my health got better. Once
Right.
I ate organic. Once I stopped watching TV. Once I,
Right.
became mindful of my scrolling, on TV,
Right.
or drugs and alcohol. I mean, they own all the pharmaceutical industry. So my
Right.
drugs is good for me, but it's also good for it doesn't empower them. So all these they're both opposite ends of the same kind of thing. Is that you're removing their power and you're empowering yourself. So for me, it's been like a slow process of removing their power and empowering myself, removing their power and empowering myself to the point
Yes.
where now, like, literally, like a cup of coffee is rare these days for me.
Yeah.
I told
Yeah.
you I broke I relapsed like
Yeah.
a couple of days ago, but
It's hard with coffee. Yeah.
my consciousness is to the point where I could never go back to that. Like I
Yeah.
could just never do it. For 2 days in a row, and I'm already like, oh, my nervous system's shot. My
Yeah.
conscience
Oh,
feels
right.
feels like, what are you doing to yourself? So it's
Yeah.
just slow, incremental improvement. So
Yeah.
the guy working at Microsoft, at the very least, what he can do is he could start to like make those small changes,
Yes.
and then
You can. Yeah.
he can start saving money. And with that money, what he's saving, then he can like basically like sock away money where he can fucking walk away from Microsoft for a year,
Right.
and then
Right.
heal, and then in that year of healing, figure out what he wants to do next.
Right. Does he need to spend $800 a month on a car payment
Exactly.
just to go from his condo to the job? I
Yep.
mean, the
Yeah. So
yeah.
taking up like a month, or if the guy is having a real fucking dark night of the soul, give himself 2 or 3 months to get out of that job, you
Yeah.
know, and figure out how you can get out, and then how you can heal and not go back.
Yep.
You know.
Right. And I mean,
So
it's impossible. I mean, you have to go to the woods or whatever. That's not reasonable to think that everyone's going to do that. You probably still find yourself walking into Walmart sometimes. You probably still buying some jeans or something that are made, in in
sweatshop.
Taiwan or
Yeah.
India or sweatshop or whatever. Yeah, yeah. There's a certain, we're using this technology, this Apple computer is made by slaves in China or whatever. So it's going to be kind of an incremental thing. It's going to be a partial thing, but there's some, obviously, I mean, you kind of have to really buck the traditional values, though, that you need to own your own home and you need a new car every 7 years, and you need to put money into your 401k, which just empowers them and all of that. You have to really kind of get off of all that and just take a chance and say, okay, I'm just gonna, you know I'm going to take a chance without a retirement, without paying in, medical insurance. Do you need to spend $500-600 a month on medical insurance? When was the last time you went to the doctor? Never. It's
Sure.
like,
Sure.
so these are sometimes scary decisions for people.
Yeah. Well, because they're so thoroughly programmed.
Yeah.
It's yeah. It's just not being on it, like not being on health insurance. Oh my God, I'm gonna die if I'm not on it. And it's like, when's
Women
all?
have a hard time with that one, especially
Yeah, yeah. I
the
mean,
health insurance one.
oh yeah, well yeah, because they're nurturing, feminine energy, That's like the nurturing. Oh, the nurturing is going to take care of
They're,
me. The
they're
medical side.
programmed to think they need mammograms and pap smears and all that kind of stuff too, and all that. So yeah. Yeah, or
Wow.
that you need to have your, your prostate, your colon checked after a certain age, and they just got you into all these different procedures that they need you to do, and then when somebody in the family develops something, and then see, he didn't go to the doctor, and now he's dying, and well,
It's
you
like,
should have had
oh,
insurance.
it's like, no, you have unhealed trauma, unresolved emotions. You're eating
Right,
candy and bullshit and drinking every day. No,
right,
nah, forget
exactly.
that. It's because you didn't go to the doctor once.
Or Melissa, she gets cancer, and it's like, and she has been working on her trauma, like it's serious, balls to the wall level of it and
Yeah.
stuff, and she has been doing that, and um but then she develops that, and then it's like, well, what could you have done? There's nothing really she could have, there's nothing she could have done. And then when she did give in and get their treatment, their chemo radiation treatment, didn't do a damn thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like, you just kind of have to accept, okay, well, I guess this is just my timeline, and this is what's
Yeah.
going on.
It's a hard question to ask you, but do you think maybe she would be alive today if she hadn't succumbed to the chemo? You think
Oh,
she's a couple more years
uh,
in?
it's I it's a good, I almost think no, because it just looks like when you when you read her journal, and I had lots of deep conversations with her, you realize that there was a martyr complex back there.
Hmm.
There was a long standing kind of fear or complex that came from her dad dying at 54, and then when she got sick at age like 32 or something, and she beat it back, there was always this kind of sort of this viral thought that I'm not going to last very long, and that she wasn't able to fully clear that out. That was always kind of back there, that that I might just have to, you know that I might have to die. And
Yeah.
then, it's kind of a martyr complex, or it's interesting, actually. We noticed that the Greek Persephone myth could have been seen through her particular movie of life. Whereas with Persephone, it was like the myth was that it was to explain the seasons, and that Persephone is the daughter of the Earth Mother. The Gaia, or Earth Mother, was called Demeter, and her daughter was Persephone, and Persephone was out in the fields, frolicking or whatever. And Hades, the devil, the Greek devil, he came up and abducted her and brought her down to hell,
Mhm.
down to Hades. And is it Hades? Hades is, yeah. And 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 so Demeter got so mad that she says, I'm going to wreck the earth, or whatever it is. You better give her up. And so they did a deal, and Persephone gets to come back for the springtime, and that's why you get all the growth in the springtime. And then the underground lord, he gets to take her back during the wintertime.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that kind of motif is she noticed that's been running in her life. So she has all these kind of periods of creation and ecstasy and all of that, and then some traumatic relationship, with some psychopath, and gets sucked down into the darkness down there, and then back up again, and down and back up. And so that whole big kind of cycle was going. And there was actually I put on my Facebook, actually, some synchronicities about that kind of proved that was going on. So when you have one of these this is an archetype, when it's a shadow archetype that's running, and it's in your family, it's in your life, and it's been going on your whole life, and you're aware of this archetype, you think to yourself, okay, well, my awareness, like I was saying, Death told her it's all about realization. So will my awareness of this cycle, this archetypal cycle is running, will that short circuit it? And we were thinking that, well, that's the best we got. Just become as aware as you can of these things and work on them as best you can. And hopefully you can short circuit the cycle. but it appears that couldn't happen, that there was a limit to the number of these kind of cycles that she could have. And this last like 2 years of cancer was another one of these, going down into the underworld cycles. But this time it was just that'll be the last one for this incarnation. And so it's kind of like that, it just takes you into the realm of, all right, well, we're all just babies here. We don't know what the fuck's going on.
And actually, the sooner we admit that, the better off we are. Instead of pretending we know it all.
I mean, you can learn shit. You can heal yourself to a degree, or hopefully a lot. You can be a better person. You can stop turning shit relationship cycles. You can do a lot, but you're not God. You're a slice of God. You're a spark of God. You're a hologram of God, but you aren't the totality.
No.
And you got to just accept whatever the hell this universe is, whatever it is, and just accept the mystery of it all, and just keep going.
A lot of people I see the black pillars.
Oh yeah,
right. They and I used to do it, and I still think it's kind of funny. But like they'll post these memes of like a baby, like with this angry face who was just born. It's like, oh man, I'm back on the slave planet again.
Oh yeah, the Gnostic point of view, yeah.
It's like, yeah, I get it, and I definitely embodied it. But like, it comes almost with like, on the other side of the spectrum, one is like, oh, the nihilists, but then the other side of the spectrum is, I'm going to get all my inner work done in this life, and I'm going to become enlightened.
Right.
And it's like, will you?
That's right. Yeah.
I don't know. If I get taken tomorrow, I didn't become enlightened.
Right.
So
right.
And then like the sooner we let go of either on this planet, it's a slave planet, or I'm going to become enlightened, the closer we can come to God.
That's right.
The closer we can come into the middle.
Yeah, but just allow surf it. We used to say surfing the dragon. Just surf the thing. Just surf the mystery. Just let it be. Let it do what it's doing. Wherever you have energy, especially positive creative energy. You always got to kind of scrape the grandiosity off of it. But that's your bliss. Follow your bliss, right? So you want to go there. So just keep following your bliss, scrape grandiosity and projection off of it as much as you can, and then just go on that path and learn from it, and then go from there, and then just enjoy the ride. Have you heard the Bill Hicks quote about it's just a ride deal?
Yeah. Oh, speaking of cancer,
yeah, it's just a ride, man. It's just a ride. It's not this. He's all, look at my furrows of worry, my bank account and all these worries and concerns. And it's just a fucking ride, man. Just enjoy the ride. Or Alan Watts has one that's kind of like that too. He says, you thought it was a game. What's that?
I was just thinking of Alan
Watts. Yeah, it said something like you thought it was a game or something, supposed to win the game or whatever, but it was a play, and you were supposed to sing and dance.
What he said? Find what you love to do it every day, and call it work.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
You want to call it work, fine, but it's all play.
It's funny. Melissa's best friend, in when she was a teenager, when she ran away from home, she moved in with Alan Watts's granddaughter. Alan Watts's daughter and her daughter. And it was just, she said there was a big portrait of him on the staircase. And every time they'd go up or down the stairs, it always looked like his eyes were following you.
Like haunting them.
Like haunting them or whatever. So yeah, that was.
And I mean, shit, he died in his late 50s.
Yeah.
So
he was an alcoholic.
Yeah. So everyone thought he was enlightened, and like relatively speaking, relatively, he was ahead of his time.
Oh yeah,
he's another one that didn't reach enlightenment, and whatever though, the next life he'll learn new stuff and whatever it takes, and I don't know. And then it's
I'd say he did his work.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the
Yeah,
culture's
that's the
greater
only
for
thing.
him. Yeah.
Like, what did we come here to do? Like, although I don't think we should become obsessed with like a legacy,
Yeah.
we still do want to like leave like a little footprint of like
Yeah.
of paying it forward kind of energy, you know.
Yes, you
Or
do.
like there's a great Greek proverb. It's a society grows great when old men plant trees, who in whose shade they shall never sit. You know, so like basically,
Yes.
I've accepted that like all
Yes. That's
activism
good,
and all
Andrew.
my healing and all this stuff, like I might not see the fruits of my labor, you know, as far as
Right.
taking down the cabal, you know, I might not,
Yeah.
like, I might not see it in the next lifetime, you know, and like the sooner I just accept that and do the best I can each day, the better I
Yes.
will be, and the better my work will impact others, you know.
Yes. Yes,
So,
and then you'll be able to just be in joy and to the. I mean, it's it's always a constant struggle. The with the the Easterners, they know about the monkey mind, right? The constantly, so we all have monkey mind, and it's always that's always there, and especially in our society, we're sort of trained to get that going, but to the best of our ability, try to be in the moment, try to go with the flow as much as possible, and try to not be so concerned with what about these people, these ridiculous freaks that think that these techno freaks that think that we're going to beat death in the
um,
near future and that they're going to live forever.
yeah, like I mean, it sounds judgy, but I think it's a universal fact is that they have the biggest void to fill.
Oh yeah.
The biggest,
Yeah.
the biggest
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
we're all afraid of death, but like they are so afraid.
I know.
They are taking active steps every day to extend their lives. Whereas a lot of us, we're afraid. We're taking steps to distract ourselves from death, and
Yeah.
we're actually shortening our life by doing that. They're taking active steps to live longer, and yeah, it's
I know. I saw somebody posted some little meme or something. It was like a clip of an interview with these two immortality people or whatever. And I didn't even really look at the whole thing. I just was like, okay, yeah, those people went on by past that. But my impression, just my 3 seconds of looking at it, is these people look scared to death.
yeah,
They
literally
looked.
scared to death. Yeah.
They did. They're living in anxiety over it, and just.
I can only imagine what their dreams are, or their nightmares.
Oh yeah.
Must be fueling their anxiety. You know.
Oh. Yes. You want to bring Nicole on?
Yeah, yeah. Let me call her and see.
Let's give her a call.
Yeah, and see if she's available.
What? Oh, she's in. She's in what time zone? She's on the
She's
Eastern, right? Oh,
yeah, it's 8:30.
yeah. Okay, it's only 8:30.
So, I'm going to text her the link.
Okay.
If she pops up before we're done, if she pops up,
Yeah.
and if not, maybe we can do another one sometime.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do another one with her. See where
Uh,
she's at. Um,
grab your link.
what else did I have on my list? Let's see here. We talked about grief opening your heart. We talked about that. Oh yeah, I got something about conferences. Yeah, the whole thing with the online communities, man. Um, my whole thing with these, I kind of, you're if you're in an esoteric, coming from an esoteric place, like we are, you're likely not to have a very big community around you, whatever your locality is. And so it's kind of necessary to get online and meet people from all over the world and stuff and powwow with them and all that. But at the same time, then you're just stuck in your device and all of this, and you're not, and it's not human and it's not healthy. So I was thinking, well, there's already conferences, there's people go to conferences and they meet each other and they listen to speakers and stuff like that. But I was part of this group. It was called Creditors in Commerce. It's kind of totally defunct, kind of interesting, weird group. Do you know the whole? They didn't like this term, but the sovereign citizen movement.
Yeah, there's a fight between sovereign citizen and state national. Right
Okay,
now, the new thing is state national.
state national. Yeah.
And
So
I know one of the leaders in it, and I'm just like, yeah.
I was in that. This group was in that. There's different kind of subgroups of that and all of that. Now, this one was in Southern California, and it was run by this guy Brandon,
Oh,
and he
Brandon
was
Joe Williams.
no Brandon Adams actually was this guy.
That's interesting because a guy named Brandon Joe Williams is like the leader of the state national movement.
Oh, so yeah, I'm familiar with this kind of the waves of this movement,
Yeah,
and it's been
yeah.
going on for a long time and everything. And there's always a patriot movement, but then there's it's kind of it's kind of patriot, it's kind of anarchist, but this group was part of there was one term. There's some of these guys, they called it the commercial redemption movement. And with this one, it was all about using commerce, about making your own bonds, using IRS forms in alternative ways to get money back from the
Breaking your
IRS.
contract and getting like the money in your Social Security trust.
Sesticate trust or whatever, and all that stuff, your Social Security number and how it's a trust fund and blah blah blah. It's all this mythology, right? I'd say about 30% of the stuff I learned with this one group or in this movement is really good, vital, really good kind of like common law background in the origins of the law and the overlays of corporate law and maritime law and all that kind of good education on that kind of stuff, and about maybe 70% mythology. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people got into a lot of trouble with this kind of stuff. But this guy, his particular group, he was a kind of a Buddhist, and he was very talented at mixing the kind of the culture and mythology of that movement with a Buddhist philosophy. And it was very attractive, actually, at least to me and to a lot of spiritual people and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so he would have these conferences, and it was one of they were really kind of they would have speakers talking and stuff like that. But then there was an element where the audience would, go up and talk on the mic and talk about their testimony and what they were able to do. And they had breakaway groups where people would work with each other, and just, there was a lot of community going on and people having dinner with each other and everything. It was very, very community oriented and stuff. There were still speakers and all that, but it was very community oriented. It wasn't just this kind of relationship like a normal conference where you just go and sit and listen to people. And I was thinking, maybe something like the kind of people who are like us, the kind of red-pilled spiritual people, the shadow work people, the more authentic people, the real natural, authentic people like us. And maybe there's a potential to have kind of like a yearly conference or something where we, actually fly out and meet each other, hang for the weekend or whatever, go do stuff together, maybe do some kind of event or something like that, and just kind of turn it into kind of a community event where we can actually, make, contact with people instead of just doing it all online or through Zoom or whatever,
Yeah. I actually, toying around with the idea of like a Pacific Northwest kind of version.
There you go.
And I know you're in Texas, so you have a lot of people, in your area.
Well, I don't really have that many people around here. I was in the Bay Area most of my life, or most of my adult life. Yeah. But but I don't know. I think people that know me are kind of all over the place. I don't really have a local base for this kind of stuff.
But I mean, I have actually interesting you say that because like some of the stuff I took away from that movement, from the sovereign and all that stuff,
Yeah.
is like some really good stuff. Is like
Yeah.
creating a trust, creating an irrevocable trust, where
Mm-hmm.
you create your own church, and you know the final.
Mm,
But it's like it goes beyond that. Then you put everything into a trust, and the
right.
trust you actually write it out in such a way that
Mm-hmm.
like the guarantor or the trustee, I don't know, is like literally God. Like literally,
Oh,
so the government, like, and this is how like
oh.
the yeah, it's
Well, if you
interesting.
do it as a if you do it as a constitutional church, you can probably do it that way.
Yeah, well, it's I think it's very similar. So it's like you create your own religion, and your religion, is all the spiritual concepts that you want to live by.
Right.
So
Right.
it trickles down into how your businesses are run, how your
Right.
assets
Right.
controlled. And so basically the government, can't, not only is the trust protected, but on top of it, it's protected by freedom of religion,
Right.
and your God. And
Right.
so if it's the government can come after, right? But it's a very, very, it's a solid way of protecting everything and putting all your
Yeah.
business in. Hey, you froze.
Yeah.
You there?
Those all those ideas. Yeah. Are you there again too? There was a little hiccup, but it's okay.
Okay, and I said
It's
my
back.
internet.
But yeah,
Um, but
I'm
anyways,
familiar with all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that's probably the only thing I'm taking away from all that stuff. It's
Yep.
just putting all that stuff into a trust. And the reason I went into that is because my ex and other people, that are like us, she's very much the
Yep.
same as us, into healing, very into shadows.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Red pill, knows everything about that.
Yep.
Um,
Right.
a lot of us, I lived on a little community, a little homesteading community, and everyone
Mm,
went there to escape the world and to just
right.
project their own shadows on each other. And
Right.
and I realized it, and I was like, this is not going to work. And eventually,
Uh,
even though I had my own shadows and everything, I
yeah.
at least was the most conscious, I guess you could say. So I was
Yeah.
running this property, and everyone else was just drinking and doing stuff,
Oh.
talking about conspiracies, and I'm literally there putting together the rain capture system and doing
Oh
permaculture,
yeah.
and just sitting there fucking resenting them. And I'm like, this is not a community. And I'm just as bad because I'm staying in this community, so you can't even judge them. You do it. So it's like I'm gonna revisit this concept after I heal.
Right.
And so
Yeah, there were a lot of these communes and stuff that sprung up in the
yeah,
60s and 70s,
yeah,
back to
yeah,
the land movement and all that kind of stuff. And they did. Most of them crashed. They started, these little socialist little eco villages or whatever, and then everybody just projected onto each other and
yeah,
they blew
yeah.
up and
Yeah,
stuff.
and then everyone's on drugs, on acid back then.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
all
yeah.
having big orgies, and it's like
Yeah.
all
Oh
swapping
yeah.
all their energy.
Right. That's not going to work.
And then the most successful ones, the CIA sends a psychopath in who becomes the cult leader, and then he turns a commune into a cult. And then
Yeah. Oh, right. Like a
yeah,
Jim
yeah, well,
Jones.
yeah, well, Jim Jones, but it's like Osho.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Osho. Well,
yeah,
actually, you know what? I listened to Osho for a while. I knew that he had those problems and stuff, but
yeah.
then I somehow I got into listening to him, and I'm like, this guy's pretty damn wise, actually,
Oh,
too.
he knows a lot, but
He knows a lot.
his truth was wrapped around a ball of lies that kept the fucking
Yeah.
his
Oh,
commune
okay.
going.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah.
literally
Remember he
had
had all those
yeah,
Rolls Royces?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, probably a little more materialistic than you're leading on when you have
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a bad
freedom
example
rule.
right there. That's a tip off that this is they're not the right place. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that
And then
guy,
they dumped botulism into the rivers or something, into the water supply.
I don't know, like
That's what I heard.
they sabotage the hell out of them, but
Yeah, that might have been a lie
and
anyway.
that's the way they sabotage too, is they send these cult leaders into these communes, they turn them into
Uh,
cults. And so a bunch of them from Northern California went up to Oregon, where I'm at. And so Southern Oregon is known for a lot of old communes that failed.
oh,
Yeah, and so a lot of like the
yeah,
Haight-Ashbury hippies from
yeah,
the 60s.
yeah,
My
yeah. They
theory
went
was like
there.
a lot of them came from these Christian households out east. And they came
Yeah,
out to California. They couldn't
yeah,
crack it. because
Right.
it's expensive. And what do after 3, 4 years doing acid, what are you doing with your life? So they're
Right.
like, either go home back to my Christian house or go up a little bit north where it's cheap and go to Southern Oregon and live on
Yeah.
a. And that's what
Yeah.
a lot of them did. And
They
that's where
did.
Oakland sprang up and a lot of these other guys sprang up.
Right. 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 Right.
Well, I'm
Right.
trying to avoid that. And
Yeah. Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
community where people are integrated and doing shadow work and continuing to do shadow work, you know, and bringing like actual skills, not just freeloading, you know,
Right.
almost like recruit, like not just building a community and say, if I build it, everyone will come, building it and then inviting people to come,
Right.
you know,
Right. Oh,
certain,
oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It would have to be like that. Yes.
and it wouldn't even necessarily be a full-time community because people have their own lives, families and shit like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like buying into it and having a place there, like instead of having a place in Florida as a snowbird, wherever you
Yeah.
want to go, or you go up to the intentional community with your family for a couple of weeks, and you live
Mm-hmm.
off land. And then you have people who live there, nut jobs like me, who aren't married right now and don't have anything holding me down. We live
Mm-hmm.
there full time and we turn it into like a healing center.
Yes.
And then people come in, and
Right.
buy into it to whatever extreme, to whatever degree they can buy into it, you know,
Right.
and just kind of have like home bases throughout the country. And so actually,
Right.
I have friends in the Northeast that have an intentional community, and she's
Mm-hmm.
she's actually developing a program where like other intentional communities, that are actually healing too. They're
Mm-hmm.
actually doing shadow work and stuff like that.
Right.
You
Right.
know, are want to spring up. So I'm considering doing one in the Northwest and maybe Northern
I
California.
see. Now, let
So
me ask you a question. What do you think about this? What do you think about if let's say you have an intentional community, it's got 200 people in it, right?
that's probably too
Or
much for me.
okay, let's say 100 people then, or 50, 75 or so, or what?
It's
Oh, I don't
50.
know.
It's 50.
50. Okay, let's say you have an intentional community with 50 people. Is it actually better psychologically? Will it be more effective having all those 50 people crammed together like that? Or is it better to have those 50 people all living in a village
The village.
where there's other, not an urban area or whatever, but another small village with, let's say, 2 or 3,000 or 5,000 or 6,000 other people, a small like locale, or maybe it's just 2,000 other people. And this is a particular group that is inside that community that has their own little hole on going, but they're not
Testing and polling.
psychically,
Yeah.
they're psychically able to have relationships with other people who are not in that mindset to kind of balance them so they don't get sucked into kind of a black hole.
Absolutely. I mean, there may have been a time where we were capable of that hundreds of thousands of years ago, but
Yeah.
I don't think we
Right.
can really remove that anymore from our psyches, you know. And I don't think we should actually remove it. I think we can have a best of the both worlds, but right now we're in the transition phase.
Yeah.
We're like healing and starting to plant those seeds of what exactly
Right.
what you said, of like literally just like almost like conscious neighborhoods,
Yes.
homes, but instead of like where we had like uh, the town over here and the neighborhood over here, everything's kind
Right.
of like stores are kind of like intermingled, and people have maybe an acre or so they have boundaries, they have,
Yes. Right.
you
Have
know,
space.
but they're
Yeah.
also close enough where it's economical as far as like
Right.
culture goes and sharing
Yes.
and using the land. So it's kind
Exactly.
of, and then that could be on 500 acres, and you have 100 people spread out on the 100 acres or whatever.
Right.
And then, like you said, like another one a mile down the street or something like that. You
Right.
so like everything's kind of like connected in an area.
Yeah.
Something.
Now I can see that totally there, but then you have to build from scratch. I was kind of thinking you kind of just move into kind of like, well, what happened in with Bolinas, California, with where Melissa kind of has her roots there. There was it was called can't remember the name. It was called Briones is what it was called. There was this little peninsula in the above San Francisco in the North Bay there was a spill there. There was an oil spill there in like 69 or 70. And all the hippies, or not all the hippies, a contingent of hippies moved out there to clean up the spill. And then there was this little town that was basically, just a couple hundred people, and it was just dying, a dying little town. Nobody was doing anything really. And all these hippies moved in there and then turned it into this kind of intentional, kind of arty community, and just kind of took it over.
Yeah.
And then, kind of intermixed with the old people that were still living there and stuff, and just used the ownership of the general store just changed over from an old guy to a hippie. And then they got into the local government, and they just kind of took over this little town. So it was already built, and they just kind of made their community there. That's another way to go.
You can do that too. Yeah. You can do it, or you can do a combination.
You don't have to build anything, but I like the building stuff. I like all the alternative building tech and Cobb, and I like those eco domes.
Yeah. We were building those out in Puerto Rico when I was
really.
I was living there for like 7 months after hurricane. We were doing aid operations, and so guys started building them everywhere
with the sandbags and stuff.
Yeah. He was called the Earth ships. They were called
Earth ships. That guy, Mike Gordon or something. Michael Gordon.
There's a couple of them out there. Yeah. That might be the one, the originator of it. Oh no,
these ones.
They're not Earth ships. Wait.
Earth. Are they like Star Wars looking?
Yeah, they're domes.
Domes.
But they're very
like Adobe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so maybe it was Earthship. Yeah, I think it was Earthship. Yeah.
No, they're called. They are. It's Earth something or whatever. It's Caltech or something or. Right, but so they take like bags, and they put sand or whatever's in the ground there, or whatever in them, and then they just kind of swirl it around and make and go like that, and then you put Adobe on the outside of it, and I just like the whole idea. I just think it's amazing if you can build your house out of the ground that is right there. You don't, you still have to put in windows and bring in some external stuff and whatever. But
imagine how healing it is. Like just everything organic, straight from the earth.
Yeah.
Like literally becoming one with the mycelium network.
Which is another subject we could talk.
Oh about. It'd be forever about psychedelics. But going back to your original thought is just
conference.
Connecting. And not even having an agenda.
Right.
Just connect to connect.
That's what I'm saying.
The connection conference. Whoa, what are we supposed to talk about? Anything. What are we supposed to do? We'll figure it out.
Like a handful of us that are kind of, familiar with subjects, we could say, okay, well, I'll do this, we can have,
some workshop or something.
Work or do something, and we can have some stuff like that, but then keep it open and keep it loose, and have a public, time for, a few hours, on one day where the public just goes up and talks about what they're doing, and just not the public, but just the members, go in there and just share, and have to figure it out. But I saw how Creditors in Commerce kind of did it, and they were very kind of community-like about it and stuff. And I liked that. Yeah. And that was kind of before the devices thing really took over. That was 2009.
Oh, okay.
So it was starting to take over, but hadn't really.
Yeah,
Did Nicole get back to you?
No, I think she probably gave up because, I have a text. Hold on.
You could give her a call on the phone, actually. Ring the actual ringer.
No, I called her earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I'll try one more time.
No, but we're good. Otherwise, I'm just checking in. Because I could talk to you forever. We could talk about all kinds of stuff, and it's not even that late here, so I can. And I'm good.
Yeah, I think she gave up. I don't know.
That's her answering machine. Yep.
Her machine. We're old when we say machine.
Oh, answering machine. What do they say now? Voicemail?
Voicemail,
yeah. That's her answering machine. That's funny. Yeah. Oh, man.
How old are you?
I'm 55.
Oh, okay.
How old are you?
I knew you were older than me. I didn't think you were 55. You're looking good, man.
You got gray hair though.
I got a
How
little
old
bit.
are you?
I'm going to be 45.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're getting was your mom or dad getting gray early?
No, this is like
No,
this is the only gray I have.
that's the only gray that's coming in there right now. Yeah. I think it took me a little long. I think maybe it was I started getting gray at 45, maybe it's like 48 or something like that or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I don't think so. But what was it? But I just created a Facebook group. So my coaching.
Okay. I think you invited me to that. I just clicked.
No,
I
no,
think
I
I
didn't. I
clicked.
didn't yet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But my coaching practice is holistic coaching. Like whole
Right.
WHOLE. And so I was
Oh,
like,
okay.
I want to. How about a holistic community? So I created a
Right.
Facebook group, and literally, it's funny you brought that up. Is like the entire agenda of the group was just to connect. That's it.
Right.
Literally, there's no agenda here. Just
Right.
people who are doing this work, who want to meet
Right.
in person at some point in life, not just be in this group. You know.
Right. Oh, there
Yeah.
you go. Well, then we're just simpatico
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's
That
great.
would be really cool at some
That
point.
means we can do it. I mean, there's red pill groups and stuff like that, but they're not doing this.
No. Or if they are,
And
they're
yeah,
getting ready to run back into the woods. And,
yeah, that
and
yeah, that whole thing that I kind of fell out of. I was really into the whole
prepping.
movement for a while, but
You were
uh
you were like a prepper and all that, and a homesteader.
I
You
wasn't. No, no. I like the homesteader movement. I definitely like that. Melissa was into that. The prepper thing. No, I think my dad was probably a prepper.
I was a prepper.
You were a prepper, yeah.
Yeah.
We had mountain house. What was it? Mountain grounds, mountain house. The old freeze dried stuff from the 70s. The first freeze dried foods and stuff like that. He had a closet full of all kinds of stuff like that, and he had guns and prepper stuff. It's kind of part of
You kind
Texas
of.
culture.
Oh, I'm just gonna get some more. So you
Yeah,
kind of grew up with that.
yeah. My dad was into that, and he was into a lot of stuff. He was into a lot of spiritual stuff, and I mean, now as he's just barely starting to get back, and he kind of went away from all that stuff. Now I think he's probably starting to get into it a little bit. But yeah, the prep. See all these movements. They're all heavily infused with projection, right? With projection, with grandiosity, with fantasy, with projection, inflation, however you want to put it. And then people get together, and then they just like we were saying with relationships and stuff. They solidify their projections, and then they become real, and then everything about the way they interact with the world is all about the end of the world, Armageddon's coming, I got to do this, or whatever the particular cult is into. And it's like I don't think there's I don't think there's any evidence that even if the dollar crashes or whatever, that we're all just going to have to go to our bunkers all of a sudden, or anything like that. That's just not going to happen. It's just not how things fall apart. Things fall apart in a kind of ding 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 all over the place, and it's kind of like it just doesn't happen that way. The best thing that you can do to be a prepper is to have a neighbors that you have good relationships with that all have different useful skill sets.
Yep.
And yeah, and then you guys together, if you live in a neighborhood and 4 or 5 people, some jack of all trades type guys and stuff that can do all kinds of stuff. Somebody can do plumbing, some guys know this, some guys know that. Somebody can fly an airplane, somebody can drive a truck, people that can do all those things. Somebody's a hunter and they can scan animals and stuff like that. Then together you guys can do something if you need to.
Yep.
But the whole thing of preparing for Armageddon or whatever is just it's really toxic, actually, because then your whole life is just all about this is all fear-based and stuff. And it's like supposing that you're not going to have the resources to survive. It's like it's very disenfranchising, or yeah, it's just
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, there's a place for it.
yeah,
Be
there
prepared
is.
for disasters, but like,
There is.
yeah, but when your whole life is dedicated to that, it's
Yeah.
almost like it's like and then like without the disaster, your life is useless. So it's almost like you want the
Yeah.
disaster to come,
Yeah.
because what's the whole point of this then? I almost, and I admittedly was like quasi there. Like
Yeah.
I was waiting for like the FEMA camps to prop up,
Yeah.
during lockdowns.
Right.
And so when I left New York, which was like the worst of the lockdowns, I lived
Yeah.
right
Right.
outside New York
Oh.
City. It's really
Oh, you
bad.
did. Where
Oh
where
yeah,
where were you?
Long Island.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And a buddy of mine actually used to run like the medical billing for Elmhurst Hospital, and Elmhurst Hospital was the hospital in New
Oh
York.
yeah. That was the epicenter. Yeah.
Yeah, like I used to own a place in Queens in Elmhurst, and my buddy used to
Uh,
run the billing for the hospital. So I had these strange synchronicities also with it, and I was just like, I'm getting the fuck out of here, you
I
know.
thought Long Island was a little more conservative and old school and stuff.
The further away from New York City you go,
Oh, right.
the
Out
city,
when you get out there.
yeah,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah, it
Right.
becomes more red and conservative. The closer
Yeah.
you get, the more liberal and blue.
Yeah. Okay. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
so no matter
Right.
where you go, yeah, the cities. But I left, and I went upstate. I went to the Canadian border, and I
Mm.
literally I lived in state national parks, and fucking camped with my dog, and then lived
Oh.
in truck stops, and like
Hmm.
literally um, talked to people online that I'm friends with, and just stayed at their places for a week or two here and there, and I just went all
Oh.
throughout the Appalachian Mountains. And I remember leaving,
Oh.
and I had no
Cool.
plans. And I had plans to live off grid and homestead, but I had no plans. I just
Mm.
literally said, I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure out how to do it. And I remember dragging my feet because originally I'm a personal trainer and a physiologist. So my whole
Oh.
business is in person, you know. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
coach people online. So I put out a post on Facebook and I said, I'm taking clients now online, to
Right.
do health consultations. This one woman reached out to me, a girl I grew up with in high school, and she
Uh-huh.
hires me to help her with some health issues. And in
Hmm.
the second conversation, I'm telling her about how I'm into prepping and homesteading. And she goes, "That's really weird." I'm like, "Why?" She goes, "I own a homestead, and she actually she drives tugboats, and she drives 1,000-foot barges through the Mississippi River, and
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Wow.
and so she lives on the river for a month at a time. She goes, I need something
Mm.
to run my homestead of when I'm not there. I'm
Oh.
like interesting. What do you?"
So you went out there.
I'm looking to run one myself, and I had no
Mm.
plans on how to do it, and you just popped up into my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I
Cool.
drove to the Missouri Ozarks and started
Yeah.
your property, and uh, and then I eventually tried to turn that into like finding the others and meeting at a homestead,
Right.
and that's where
Right.
the projections came, and that's where
Oh.
I realized, oh shit, we're not healed, we're all fucking unintegrated, and
Yeah.
this is not gonna. I did that.
Wow. Right. This is a wake up call for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on.
So
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's it's a great mystery, man. It's a
yeah.
great mystery.
Random question though. Did you get snow? You're in Texas, right?
I did. Yeah. Got snow 2 days ago or something. It snowed.
Yeah.
It was just one day of it. I mean, it was weird actually. When Melissa was in a hospital, which was Christmas time, New Year's Eve, Christmas time, then it was hot. It was 80 something degrees over here. It was a warm front that came through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, it was a cold front.
Mhm.
So now we're in the cold front part. And yeah, it does. Texas, the weather here is very fickle. It's very it's very chaotic. It just goes back and forth, and it's just all kinds of stuff. You get all kinds of stuff. I don't know how it works. It's because you got the Gulf of Mexico stuff, and then you got the stuff from the East Coast, the West Coast, and you just
Yeah, you're
you,
like this epicenter of
yeah,
yeah.
you get a lot of
Yeah, I was never a fan. I lived in Texas for a year. Wasn't I lived
Oh,
just
where were you in Texas?
north of Houston. You know.
Ah, well, that's a fucking armpit right there.
Oh yeah, I know.
Houston.
It's a fucking swamp. Yeah, it's a fucking swamp. Yeah, I lived in a little town, a little farming town called Splendora, Texas.
Mm-hmm. I think I've heard of that. I think I've seen that on the map.
And you know what's funny is the Splendora, Texas, was run by the fucking Mexican cartels and
Oh,
the KKK. There was
oh,
like
and they're still out there?
yeah, there was like this hidden like turf war going on in this nice little Texas community. Yeah, it was really
Well,
fascinating. My
it's
my
like
friend,
the Sunnis and Shiites in
yeah,
Iraq or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah. And my friend lived down the street from this huge mansion that had no furniture in it whatsoever. It had walls around it, and it was owned by the cartel. And every now and then, I'd see fucking Splendora police cars sitting there all day. Not just there to show, they're sitting there getting their payouts and probably getting high.
Oh,
Like,
oh yeah.
yeah,
Right,
the
right,
whole
right.
town was just
Oh God.
running fashions.
Wow. Yeah,
Fascinating.
with Texas,
Yeah.
in a way, Texas is just the same old kind of. There's a layer of the whole American just disease of just our whole modern American, just whatever rat race, matrix,
Mhm.
yuck, garbage, Walmart, fast food, just whatever. That's all here, and but then there is the old Texas culture, the cowboy culture, the real polite people, very
Mhm.
independent people,
Mhm.
self-reliant people, can-do spirit. There's a lot of independent businesses. I mean, there's so many different. So you see trucks, with Joe's such and such service, or
Mhm.
this or that, or there's so many different independent little family-owned businesses, contractors and stuff. Or food trucks and stuff like that. So it's very kind of independent and resourceful. That thing that's not in New York City, obviously. That is in upstate New York too.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking that. Yeah.
Yeah, upstate New York. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. All those, all those places. Maine, obviously, really resourceful and all that because you have to be. But yeah, so that whole culture is still here, and it's very polite, and people wave to each other, and so that whole, but that generation is I'm Gen X. Are you're Gen X too? Probably you're
Yeah,
a younger Gen
just
Xer.
on
Yeah,
the cusp.
barely on the cusp. Yeah. Our generation is like the last generation to really have all that kind of old culture and stuff. And then the millennials and the Gen Z and stuff, they're not really getting that. And so it's kind of it's falling apart, and it just doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like a cool place to be anymore.
Well,
Just like
Texas.
California used to
Yeah,
feel cool, but it
yeah.
doesn't feel cool anymore either.
Yeah, and then everyone goes to Texas, and then all the Texans resent the people coming from out of state,
Yeah.
bringing all their drama and bullshit, so.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's like, yeah, yeah. Don't California my Texas is a t-shirt people wear.
Really?
Yeah.
I actually, I actually had my New York license plate on my car when I was in Texas, and
Oh.
man, people were fucking looking, glaring at me. Cops would follow me everywhere. I swear, one day I was at a park meditating for a couple hours, and I swear they were waiting for me to come to my car,
Oh.
just so they could harass me. And I literally like outwaited them. Like I waited for them because actually
Oh.
my registration had expired.
Oh, oh, it had.
And I was like, fuck. I'm like,
Uh-oh.
but I don't
While
think
you were out there. Yeah, yeah,
registration.
yeah.
They were there because I had a New York plate and they wanted to harass me.
Yeah. Yeah, but now, most of the New Yorkers now they've gotten Texas license plates. They're all over the road.
Yeah, I bet.
They're everywhere, but you can't tell until you meet them or whatever that
Yeah, you're
you're
from
from.
New York. Yeah.
But actually, the act of it's not them actually. It's the hipsters from Manhattan,
Yeah. Oh yeah, from Brooklyn.
from Brooklyn.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the hipsters from Brooklyn that are moving here. So, and then a lot of them don't have the New York accent and stuff.
Yeah. They're going to Austin. That whole
They're
area.
going to Austin, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where. And I'm just south of Austin. I'm living in my I get a really good situation right now, actually. And it was interesting because I was living in I have my mixing and mastering studio in a place called Pacheco. It's in the East Bay,
Okay.
inland from north of Oakland. And I had that warehouse. I had that warehouse for 20 years. And when my band was based out of there, I had band practice there. And then I had my studio in there. And then I had a shower and kitchen. It was like a live work loft type situation. And then I rented some of the space out to some people for storage. So I had sublets. And so I got my rent down and stuff. And that was like my little, artist studio kind of, retreat.
Mhm.
And but it was in an industrial park. And so, wasn't really serene or anything, but there was all these nice nature spots right nearby I could go to, just some amazing places right near there. But, I remember what I was going to say. I remember my point. It was something
No,
about,
we're talking
oh,
about him.
why I came out here, why I'm living
There's
here.
no-
Yeah. So I had been wanting to get out of there. I almost even moved to Holland in 2008 because I just have, that's another story, but,
Yeah.
didn't do that. And then I was just kind of there in the Bay Area watching the music culture die and going, what am I even here for? And my whole direction in life was getting more esoteric and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, this isn't really the place for me anymore. And so, but I didn't really know where to go. And then Melissa and I, when we got together, we were kind of like, yeah, this Bay Area, this is not what it used to be. Why are we here? But we never really had a good situation to go to. And it was like our situation was good. And so it's like, okay, just kept staying there. And then when the COVID thing happened, then we're like, okay, now this place is really blowing up. And we're kind of like you, let's get the hell out of here. And so at that point, I had a friend who's also a music producer, and he had been wanting to get my studio for years. I'm like, okay, you can have it. So I gave him the lease. He took it. He let me use some space for storage. I put my stuff in the storage room. And Melissa and I put whatever we could in her little car, and we drove here to what's called Buda. It's just south of Austin, where my mom and her husband have an investment property that they bought this property just as an investment. And they would come up on the weekends and stuff, but it wasn't really being used. So we said, well, can we come stay there, stay for a few months and kind of see what's going on, just we'll figure out what we're going to do. We just got to get out of here. And so like, okay, well, you can stay there for a few months. So we came out here. But then once we got out here, we realized, oh, my mom, she was like, at the time, she was like 77. Her husband was a little older, my stepdad, and they weren't getting their bills done. And they're getting old, and they weren't able to like keep up with all their responsibilities and stuff. Mm-hmm. So we started going down there they're living in San Antonio, about 60 miles south. So we started going down there once a week and cleaning their house and looking at their bills and just making sure there's somebody keeping an eye on everything, and just an external person, just a couple of people just, weighing in on what was going on and just helping them out because of their age. And so we figured out that they actually really needed that. They figured that out, and they're like, okay. And so we got a little symbiotic little situation. So they give us free rent living here in this really nice house.
Yeah.
And then we go down there once a week and clean up. And then, we stay in touch with them and take care of problems. And when there's, shit happens, storms and stuff, we call contractors and just kind of handle business for them. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what we've been doing for the last 4 years. And so I'm just kind of chilling. And that's really been, I have my CD mastering business. I have my equipment here. I've got my stuff here in the living room. So I'm still got a kind of a part-time audio engineer job. It's part-time. I got some coaching business, but it's not, it's not enough. I couldn't just go rent I couldn't just go into the matrix and just, make it work. I mean, I could if I wanted to go work full-time somewhere, but I'm not doing that. I'm not going to go do that. I'm not going to go work for, I mean, I have, where am I going to work? I have one other, besides being an audio engineer, I have one, and the psychology, I have one other skill set. And that is that I, out of that whole sovereign citizen movement, that commercial redemption movement, I got into the whole thing after the economic crash of 2008, I found this kind of sub movement of people who were trying to, they were trying to save their houses from foreclosure after their big, balloon rider loans blew up and stuff. And they figured out that all these loans were securitized in these Wall Street trusts. And they figured out that those Wall Street trusts had hastily securitized all those loans, and that their promissory notes were either lost or discarded or whatever. And they realized, hey, wait a minute, there's millions of houses out here and the banks can't find the notes, or they can't admit what they did with them because they were rehypothecating them and doing scams with them and stuff. So if we can get these banks into court, we can expose that they don't have the notes, or that they don't know that they were doing illegal stuff. And then we can maybe negotiate a deal on our house and get out of foreclosure or whatever it was. So that was kind of a whole sub movement that was doing that. And I found out that I had the brain that I could do this legal work. So I started doing all this mortgage title research and stuff like that. And then working with the homeowners and their lawyers and stuff to put together cases and stuff like that. So I have this kind of legal background. I did that for like 4 years. And, I could go work I could become a certified document preparer and go work for a law firm or do something, I don't want to freaking do that. I'm just way too much of an artist to have to go back into the matrix. So I don't really know what I'm going to do here. I mean, this is a good situation. I don't know how long this is going to last. So now that Melissa's not around, I'm kind of like, well, I don't know what I'm doing.
I mean, now you have the opportunity, to figure out what's next,
figure out. I mean, right now I'm stable and this is a good situation, and my mom needs me and stuff. So I'm not going anywhere right now, but I'm here in this, this location. So
you're producing right now for people? Are you engineering? What do you make?
Yeah, I mean, mainly what I'm doing, I was doing more producing and recording bands, from scratch back in the day. I started in 96 and did that for a long time. But now I'm to the point where most of what I'm doing is called mastering.
Yeah.
So it's like after the album's been recorded, then they bring it to me and it's kind of like a final touch type thing, put all the songs together and go through the different mixes and pick the best ones, or work with the engineer to kind of clean up some stuff. It's like a final kind of deal when you put your CD out. And then sometimes I'm doing mixing projects too. And so a band records with somebody and they're like, we don't like how the mixing engineer is making it sound. So they send the whole thing over to me and I'll fix it and mix it for them and stuff. So I do some projects like that too. I don't have in order to do the actual recording of bands, like bring bands in and record drums and do everything from scratch and stuff, I could actually use this house as a recording studio. I could do that. But you kind of really have to interface with the music community and really, get trust and reputation and all that kind of stuff. And I'm kind of falling out of that kind of area. Yeah.
Yeah. That takes a lot of hustle and bustle and selling yourself and then
exactly. I just don't.
When I got out of the music business for many reasons, but that was one of them. It was just like, it's like I was in the mainstream business. I was working in rap and hip hop. And it's like the epitome of fake it till you make it, and like, I couldn't fake it any longer, but it was an interesting,
oh man, I can't even understand. I mean, I can understand, but it's just the whole mainstream music thing and the way I mean, I kind of understand right now there's no economic incentive for labels to develop real artists anymore, and to build a fan base and do all the marketing that's necessary, and to really build, take a chance that real artists are going to sell, because in the old days, they would sign 10 bands and one of them would become platinum and then they would drop the other bands after 1 or 2 albums or something. It's just like all this hit or miss stuff. And I kind of understand they don't want hit or miss. They kind of want to this is the product people like. And so this is the product we're going to keep doing over and over again because we know it's going to work. We don't have to lose money on it. And then we're going to we don't want to have bands anymore because that's 5 guys and it's very volatile and stuff. Let's just sign the record deal with one guy and then we'll just hire the other guys or the producer to put it together. And it's just one person you have a contract with. And it's just, I understand the whole economic reasons why kind of music has gone where it's gone, but it sucks. Mainstream music sucks crap. It sucks sucks cock. And it's like, and then I go to Europe and stuff and play over there, and I see the live music scene over there, and it's very vibrant and everything. And they're still in the metal scene, at least they're still developing artists and stuff, and it's a lot better. And so I see how it could be better, and I can see how just any kind of inventiveness. I mean, I myself could just like walk into talk to a record exec and be like, why haven't you tried this? How haven't you tried this? What about this? What about this? What about this? You know, I could just throw ideas on the table and stuff. And why aren't you guys trying things? Why aren't you trying to bring people back to concerts, bring people back to real art and real music? Why aren't you out there looking for real talent so you can put really good stuff into people's ears instead of this generic repeated shit over and over? You know, why are you doing that? Why are you making cookie cutter music when you don't have to? I mean, what is the problem? And it's like, I mean, I just, you know, I could think of all kinds of ways that the American music scene could be improved instantly, quickly, but they don't want to do it. They're just lazy.
They want nothing to do with it. And that's where I became really, really disillusioned.
Yeah.
I thought that I could take conscious hip hop artists and bring them into the mainstream.
I liked all that stuff. The original conscious hip hop that like De La Soul and all that kind of stuff, that kind of jazzy stuff that was coming out it was in the
early
80s,
90s, late 80s,
early 90s. Yeah. It was. Yeah.
Yeah. All that. That was, yeah. But then it's pretty much a proven conspiracy is then
the CIA thing. Yeah.
With the West Coast thing and Biggie.
Oh, right.
And then but then also this guy named Liar Cohen was basically literally his name is Liar, like Liar. You can't make this up. And like there's pictures of like Biggie like bowing to him. Not Biggie.
Oh, I never heard of Liar Cohen.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was like the shot. If there was like a gang, you know, and like that was his block, he was the shot caller for hip hop industry. You know, like he reported to like the cabal basically, and
he's talking to Wall Street or whatever.
Yeah, and like the Rothschilds and all the people.
Yeah. Right. I see. Yeah.
And Geffen, the guy that I knew, I think was running the whole shit. Geffen was friends with the Rothschilds. Like there's pictures of him on Rothschild Island.
Right.
Biggest donor to the Democratic Party.
Right.
This is the guy I sat face to face with once, and I tried to get money out of him for my record label. And basically it was like, no, you're gonna have to sell your soul. And he's gay, so it would have come in the form of of you know what.
We're finding out about all the gay stuff because the Puff Daddy thing and all that. Right?
Yeah. But Diddy's actually nothing compared to like this guy Geffen was they call him the head of the gay mafia, and and he used to run he started something called DEN, or Digital Entertainment Network, and it was like the first YouTube, and I think he gave like $250,000. He was one of the the initial investors. It turned out to be front for child trafficking. Yep. And he got no one went after him.
He's still around, right?
Oh yeah, he's going strong. You know.
Yeah.
That's who I sat face to face with, and it was like looking Satan in the eyes. And
oh really?
Dude, he was like scanning my soul.
Oh really?
Like imagine
psychopath, huh?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like Terminator. Like remember Terminator when he's like all like the data.
Oh yeah. Exactly, like, on the screen.
Yeah. It's like he's looking into my eyes and he's scanning my soul. For all like my shadows and vulnerabilities that he can explore.
Yeah.
Literally, I felt him like looking through me, and I was like, "This is weird." Yeah.
Wow.
But I sat for like an hour face to face with the most powerful man in Hollywood, and I was delusionally. I knew I started to wake up before that, and so I knew he's gonna want something from me. But my delusional self was like, "Nah, I can get like $1 million out of him." Nah, but in the back of my head, it's like, no. But I was like, "Fuck it," you know. It was almost like it was like a video game. Like I made it to the end boss. So even if I didn't beat the end boss, right? Okay, you know, so it was kind of.
That's cool. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I think that's a good story. It's a good story. It's a good experience. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was an interesting experience. And then so I had the choice afterwards. Could I follow up and try to again toe this line where I know he wants my butthole, literally,
Oof. Yeah.
or just give up? I just turned the video game off and I retired
Yeah.
not long after that.
Okay, so then the answer why they're not really willing to actually develop music and art and stuff is just because they're a bunch of losers. They're
Yeah.
just a bunch of psychopathic, just screwed up, low consciousness people.
They have no interest in changing anything. It's just
Yeah.
exploiting people. And that's the thing too, is they don't even have at first there was this big, oh my God, the internet's gonna ruin music, for them, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
eventually they realized, like, oh my God, big in rap too.
Yeah.
All these people are developing their own careers,
Yeah.
and they're going on YouTube, and so they're doing is now they're just plucking people off YouTube who have spent years developing their careers,
Oh.
and then they're just saying, okay, well, we'll pay you $1 million and do this and this that, and get rid of your band, like you were saying, do this. So they'll take out the lead singer, the person,
Right. Yeah.
and they'll just it's almost like what do they call it when like Wall Street guys they go to a business and they destroy the whole business, like they buy up a company and they
Oh
strip
yeah.
it down.
Vulture capitalists.
Yeah, it's not like that when they
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like, oh, something about leverage buyout or
yeah, exactly, like
some
what's his
some
name,
kind of buyout, or I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, yeah. I know
wants
what
to
you
give him
mean.
that at a Bain Capital, like so yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they do now is they go online and they leverage a fucking artist who's like not fully there, because if you got
Yeah.
3 million followers on Facebook, I mean on YouTube,
Yeah.
you don't even
Yeah.
need that, but you
No.
get the guy who's got 100,000,
Right.
who's maybe
Right.
making 5,000 a month on
Right.
ads, and then
How
you
about
offer
how about Tom McDonald? They probably want him, right?
he's fully compromised. He's got
Oh,
pictures
he
of
is.
him doing all the Satan stuff, and he's got a
Yeah,
tattoo
but
that,
we do that in the metal community. Though. We do that all the time. We don't have anything to do
oh,
with
you guys
that.
gotta
That's
stop
from comes no, it comes from Ronnie James Dio. That was his thing, and so he said he got it from his grandmother, who was a Catholic, who
that.
who used to do that to banish demons.
Well, it
It
depends
was
on
like a
there's this and then there's that. And I know,
uh metalheads. We always just do this,
yeah.
this one here. We don't do it that way. I think Dio did do that though.
So there's like so the Satanists inverted. They invert everything, and I think that's actually this that I'm sorry
Oh,
is a Buddhist, like a mantra hand
right. Oh yeah, it's a
of
yeah.
Buddha.
What do they call it? Mudra.
Mudra, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
there's it's all inverted, but there's like
yeah.
a people were saying, oh well, it's heavy metal brought it into it, but there's like a picture of Sammy Davis Jr. in
Mm-hmm.
in like the early '60s, and he's with what's the guy that had the Church of Satan, the guy who
Oh,
was
Anton LaVey.
and they're
Right.
doing this.
Yeah.
So he's not a metalhead, and this is before metal times.
Yeah.
So
It's weird. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it was gradually brought into the metal verse,
Well, the metalheads were, originally the metalheads were basically rebelling from their Christian parents.
Yeah, of course.
So doing this, once this got found out, to do that, it was like, yeah, that's cool. Devil horns, right on, bro. But they're not going home and worshiping the devil
Yeah,
or
yeah.
anything. It was just a
But then the
fun.
question is like, do they know what kind of energy it's bringing? And
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
there's always
weird though, because the metal community is really just brotherly love and stuff like
yeah.
that. There's nothing negative. It's like I go to a rap concert versus a
Oh,
metal
oh,
concert. Metal
okay.
concert's like a hippie concert of just lovers and stuff.
Mhm.
Whereas a rap concert, you're like, oh shit, what's going down over here? It's like, oof,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. The low vibes, energy is bad.
low vibes, very low. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The man, I'll tell you what, you go to these outdoor metal concerts in Europe and stuff. They're just all over Europe. They're just lover fests. They're just, people just loving on each other and just hanging out and just having a great time. And the whole, and anytime anyone, if you ever see that there's a small number of metal bands Scandinavian ones usually.
I was going to say Scandinavian, yeah.
The black metal, the Scandinavian black metal or whatever, there's small, very small number of actual satanic metal bands and satanic people. And the 99% of the metalheads are just like, you idiots. This is for we have devil pictures for fun. It's no, we don't really believe in this.
Yeah.
This is just for being rebellious and just saying fuck you to society and stuff. We don't actually, it's like people that, it would be like people that like horror movies who actually did Jeffrey Dahmer stuff and you know, put you in an acid bath and store you in the freezer and stuff, you know, and people that, it would be like saying that people that go to horror movie or horror conferences and stuff are actual serial killers.
Yeah, doing murder. Yeah.
They're just, they're not. It is kind of a, I don't like horror movies myself, and I don't really know why people do like that. It's just kind of a,
I think it's just like traumatizing in a small.
It is to me.
And if you have trauma already, it's triggering that trauma.
Yeah.
And I think there's an agenda, you know, behind that, and not with the creators of the movies, but the people who fund them. And then, especially in the '80s, you know, like when the whole thing started with Freddy Krueger and all that, like I got like fucking literal nightmares, you know, like.
Yeah, me too. I when I saw Alien or Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I had nightmares for months.
I wouldn't go to sleep because I thought Freddy was going to come into my dreams. You know? It was fucking terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not into horror movies and all that, but you know, I kind of can't say anything because, you know, I play in a death metal band and I never liked any of the art or any of the lyrics from death metal, but all my peers were all around us. Oh, that's so cool. You know, let's do a song about, like, you know, we had songs of, I mean, people were reading Jeffrey Dahmer books and other serial killer books and writing songs about them or about the mafia and doing hits and all kinds of that kind of stuff. That was just fun. And it was just like, oh man, you know, what about, you know, what do I need for a lyric right here? You know, we'll just tie her up and put her in the basement or whatever. And just, you know, all kinds of horror stuff. And people are like, yeah, that's a good lyric, you know? And it's just like fun, rebellious kind of teenage boy energy is what it really is, kind of. And then, you know, you grow into it and then you grow into the whole culture of it. And then you find out there's a whole family around all these people. Don't, you know, they're in their 40s, 50s. They don't feel so rebellious anymore, but this is their culture, their art culture. And so it's just, and then it's just, yeah. So it's weird, actually, the whole metal scene, or it's like the rap scene too, you know. Actually, maybe the rappers probably more often believe they actually are gangbangers, maybe, you know.
Well,
Do they?
Well, they come from the streets, but then a lot of them also, like, they were like raised like around that stuff, but they weren't actually doing it, you know.
Right.
You know,
well, it's a similar kind of a thing. So they're just making art out of what, you know, out of that culture and stuff.
But the problem is the hip hop industry, they like weaponize that. So the big like excuse or defense, and it's understandable, is, oh, why are you talking about gang banging and all that stuff? And it's like, oh, well, we're just expressing, you know, what our daily life is, right?
Yeah.
And that's understandable.
Right.
But when it gets glorified, you know, and then now kids literally want to be gangbangers. It's like you kind of screwed up the purpose. The purpose was to actually, these conscious rappers that we were just talking about at the beginning of the conversation, is they would actually talk about the ills of living in the hood, but then they would in between of talking about the drug dealers and you know, and the gang members and pimps, they would talk about conscious things, about, you know, family and all that stuff. So there would be like a balance in the songs where it went all dark, and then it went not just dark, then it went music videos and, you know, women shaking their asses and holding guns and all that stuff. So it went from making it conscious to then glorifying, and so that's that's where it turned bad, and the gangster rap. And that's what I was getting at in the beginning, is there was actually like a meeting where like they literally started to like groom the owners of record labels to start gravitating towards gangster rap instead of the field.
Yeah. I've heard of that so-called conspiracy theory. I think it's true. I put Dr. Dre, The Chronic, on for like the first time in 15 years. Actually, put the record on and listened to it again, and it's it's so talented and so arty and stuff, and there's so much good art, and there's so much natural just originality. I mean, I know a lot of it's just stolen off of Funkadelic and stuff like that. I mean, it's just basically, it's basically like what's his name, George Clinton was probably just right there in the studio working with Dr. Dre or whatever. But they got they pull put the Motown records on and pull the old grooves off of them and stuff like that. So there was a lot of, stealing and that kind of stuff, but he was so good at putting it together and making it original and stuff. And I go back and I listen to that. And then I had listened to, kind of the shit they put on the radio at the gym. Oh, and I'm just like, man, you can even make really kind of gross gangster rap, but make it really cool and arty and original. You can do that, but they don't want to.
When I was in the business, from like 2008 to 09 to like 2014 ish, 15 is I literally didn't listen to anything that came out.
Yeah, right.
Like, so I'm working in the business. Yeah, which should have also told you, Andrew, like, if you want to have a real ear to the fucking, to the streets, you better understand what's coming out. But I knew what was coming out, and it was complete crap. And I was delusionally hoping that I could push conscious stuff, yeah. But no,
right.
I'm in the hip hop industry, and I don't even really know who the top hip hop artists are anymore, because it's so toxic. It's so bad. Like, I think.
Did you ever talk to Rick Rubin?
No. I didn't, but
no,
I know of him.
I mean, he might have some opinions about all that.
Oh yeah,
because he's because he was right there with it and stuff like that, and he's a real artist and stuff, and so he probably hates all that just garbage cookie cutter stuff too. I don't know if he's even producing rap anymore at all.
I don't think so. He's got to be in the 60s now, but I mean, even like the last one to kind of blend gangster rap with conscious rap was what's it called? The guy with the clock. Duh.
The guy from Public Enemy?
Public Enemy, yeah, duh. Yeah, Public Enemy.
Flavor Flav?
Flav, yeah. They were like the last gangster rap who still actually
Public Enemy. Yeah.
Yeah. They
Chuck D.
And then you know what they did, what their downfall was? They told the truth.
Right.
And they said that Jewish people run the music business.
Oh, okay.
Fucking dumbass fucking at one of the Grammys.
Flav said that?
No, one of the
Chuck D.
Chuck D. Yeah, well, I think it was Chuck D said it.
He's a singer, yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, he said something about Jewish people running the industry, and that was it.
That was it.
It was it. It was over.
But maybe also they were just too anti-establishment and stuff.
They were on their way out anyways. But it's like any longevity they had was right over once they started talking about Jewish people.
Did you ever hear Immortal Technique?
I actually met him once. He was
he
was big into activism.
Right. He was.
I met him in 2016. Actually, I went down to the Philadelphia DNC, the Democratic National Convention.
Oh, you did? In what year?
So, I mean, I was already an anarchist by then.
Right.
Just going on, and I met him on John, like in Jill Stein.
Your thing hiccuped, but you said you went down to the DNC and you met Immortal Technique. Yeah. Are you back?
Yeah.
You went to the DNC, you met Immortal Technique, and you said you went to the DNC, you met him down there, Immortal Technique, and then what?
Oh, I was saying I met him at Jill Stein. I don't know if you know she was.
Yeah, Jill Stein, right? The Green Party.
Head of the Green Party, and I actually was able to interview her, which was
interesting.
Cool. Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah,
but no, I know Tech. Yeah, I don't know him. I met him.
Yeah. Oh, they call him Tech. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember, I mean, back in the old days, some of my band members were listening to some of the West Coast stuff, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and some of the West Coast stuff. So I kind of was, this would be like 90, 95, 94, 95, is when I was kind of hearing that. And I kind of heard that. And I was like, it took me a while to get used to it. Then I'm like, okay, but I like this. It's very clever and very, very talented and stuff. And then I heard Eminem, and at the time I thought, well, that was talented too. Just kind of some of the things that he was doing something different. I thought, okay, well, that's kind of an evolution. And then I had heard some of the conscious stuff, some of the more that mellow, jazzy kind of conscious rap and stuff. I liked some of that stuff. And there was some Bay Area rap that was like, well, MC Hammer was from the Bay Area. They had the underground. What was the underground? The guy that wore the Groucho Marx.
Digital Underground.
Digital Underground. They were from the Bay Area. So
that was where Tupac started. With Digital.
Right. Yeah. Tupac was out there. I didn't listen to him much, but this was just because I'm in the metal community. So this is something that some metalheads got into. Most didn't, but some were like, oh, you got to check this out. So I heard it around, and I kind of noticed what was good and what wasn't. But then I was listening to Alex Jones, and that's when I heard Immortal Technique. He came through there. There was another guy named Paris that was a rapper that was talking about 9/11 truth.
Mm-hmm.
He came through Alex's studio, and there was some other rappers that came through there and stuff. And then I heard, some conscious stuff here and there. So I know it's out there, but
it's sparring for you. I mean, actually, there's plenty more of it than we realize. You just don't hear it because it doesn't. Right. It doesn't get out there,
Right. Yeah, man.
Yeah, so I tried to fuse metal and rap at one point, and was like managing a band living in Hollywood. And yeah, it was this rapper called Lil Zane. He had this. You probably heard, like I think 1999. He cracked the top 40, and he did a song with 112. I don't know if you remember the R&B group 112. And he was a lead singer of this band called the Indispensable. And we actually put together this guy named Roland Banks. You probably never heard of him, but if you do anything about ska,
I know Sublime.
You ever heard of Fishbone?
I know Fishbone.
Yeah.
I know. I had one of their albums actually in 1989. It was maybe the first one or the one that got popular or something like that. And I played that in my car. I remember that. That was good.
Yeah, we had Norwood Fisher was their bassist, and so we had Norwood Fisher. We had Lil Zane, this like top 40 mainstream rapper.
Yeah.
And we had this death metal guy, Roland Banks, who's a drummer, and so we tried to put all these pieces together.
That's cool.
It was fucking cool, but there was a lot of drugs, a lot of party.
Oh, yeah, right.
It didn't last very long.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds cool. Because didn't Fishbone? Did they have like remember how was that what was the band that was a black rock? Did Fishbone have like a heavy metal guitar player in there? I think they had a funk bassist.
The funk bassist is the guy that I worked with.
Oh, he was the guy that you had?
Yeah,
the funk guy, the funk bassist. Oh, right. He's a shredder, right? Yeah, I remember. Yeah. He's the bomb back then. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, I can't really remember what they sound like, but I remember liking them and having their tape.
Yeah.
Listen to them. I haven't thought of them in a long time. Yeah. Fishbone.
Yeah. I actually saw Sublime too when they were called.
Wow.
Well, no, not when they were Sublime, unfortunately. After the lead singer died, they were called Long Beach Dub All Stars.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
I saw a concert with them, and then it was Sublime and Method Man and Redman. It was actually it was a really cool.
Right. Wow. Yeah, they were popular in the Bay Area. There was a lot of Sublime copy bands in the Bay Area.
Right.
And because there was, the Bay had all this we had a lot of music. We had a lot of different styles. We had a lot of funk styles that were coming. Funk rock was,
Yeah.
big there, and Fungo Mungo and bands like that and stuff. And even what was the band? Faith No More. They kind of had a
Oh, yeah.
funk
Oh, I
thing
love
going
them. Yeah. Yeah.
there. That was kind of they had that one song that had rap mixed with
Yeah.
metal.
Yeah. And he's playing the piano at the end, right? Isn't
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. Epic, it was called.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
song was
Yeah. Yeah.
called
Yeah.
Epic. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of experimentation was going on in the Bay Area. There's a lot of experimentation. And it was on fire over there. I mean, there was a guy named John Nady, and he ran three big music clubs in the Bay Area. One in the South Bay, one in San Francisco. That was the Stone, the Omni in Oakland, and the One Step Beyond in San Jose. He had sort of like the monopoly of kind of these clubs. And you could just look on the list. This is in the 90s, and you just look on the on the schedules they had for all three clubs and stuff, and it was just incredible bands every single night in all these clubs, just international touring bands, local bands, just all these people that would become big names later in all styles, just constantly. It was metal, it was funk, it was everything. It was R&B, it was it was Tower Power, just everything. It was all in there. And it was just such a mecca for music. I mean, there was LA, and they had that whole scene that was more of kind of a polished, kind of more Hollywood thing or whatever. And then you had the Bay Area, and it was just this more rough, just incubator for originality. And that was just going on there. And it was just like, man, and now you go through there and it's just like crickets, basically. It's like it's like completely, it's like an atomic bomb hit the music scene. It's
Yeah.
just, wow, it's gone.
It all got drawn into the mainstream, and everyone else just
and
on the
and
phone.
then people got on their devices, and then the mute, and then whatever small amount of money there was for artists was drained away by the downloading. I mean, I had a French record label, this death metal label and stuff. He told me, he said the owner, he said in 2005. So when my third album came out in 2005, he said, dude, this downloading thing is already hitting us really bad. He said, I've already lost 25% of my sales to downloading just in the last year. And then it just went from there.
Yeah.
So by the time 2010 hit, it was just like, it was all the small record labels, were closing down or getting bought out by bigger labels and stuff. And so it was just the whole underground scene where bands could develop and stuff like that and get some kind of, all the fanzines and all that stuff that was in the underground, that all just disappeared. Everything went online or just disappeared.
Yeah.
Was,
Yeah, I
wow.
remember. Yeah, and all the what was it, Kazaa and Napster. Remember that? And,
Yeah, Napster and Metallica was right.
yeah.
Remember they were jumping on it. They were siding with the record labels, and they were saying, this thing is going to ruin artists. And everybody was listening to the Metallica guys. Lars Ulrich, he was like the big
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
the drummer. He was really against it, and he was like, no, this is going to be bad for everybody. It's not just us, the big bands. This is bad for everybody. And everyone's like, shut up, Lars, we get access to this music now. This is democratizing music, shut up. And no, he was right, they were right. But there's nothing anyone could do about it. It's kind of like what happened with the other technologies, with what happened with movies, with VHS tapes, or what happened with cassette tapes, or other technologies that just cut in, and or like what AI is doing right now with a lot of jobs and stuff. These technologies just cut in, and or what the Japanese did with the auto industry and stuff. They just come right in, they cut in, and they just slice open the industry and just destroy it. And then you have to deal with it. That's what technology does.
Yeah. Well, I mean, although I will say this is that you don't now need to be part of a label.
No.
If you have a decent business sense,
Yeah.
and you understand social media, you can actually make six-figure income and not have any labels at all. You just have to know how to market yourself on social media and use Spotify, and use all the other streaming
Right.
Like,
Right. I'm hearing that, but when I try to put an ad for my mastering business on Facebook and zero happens with it.
yeah. Well, you said you master CDs, right? You said
What's that? Yeah.
okay, but so you're still working in physical, tangible.
No, no. Actually about, I don't know, probably 60% of it doesn't get on CD anymore. It just goes to digital.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, we still call it CD mastering
Okay.
because there's other domains that are called mastering, but yeah, I mean, it originally was mastering records, physical,
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
vinyl. And it's basically you can't put the whole, spectrum of music. You record your band, you record your songs, and then you print them to like a 1/2 inch tape.
Mhm.
And you can't just directly transfer that onto a record because of the physical that the needle will,
Yeah.
if you have too much treble, the groove will be too thin, and then the needle will fall out of the groove. Or
Mhm.
if you have too much bass, it'll make it too deep, and then it'll cut a hole in the thing. So you have to kind of remove the low end and the high end, and you have to compress it to kind of
Mhm.
make it go physically onto a record. And so that's what mastering was. It was kind of hooked up to the lathe that cuts a record. But then people got used to the sound of compressed music, and it's good for listening in loud environments and stuff like that. You know how like classical music, it goes from being super loud to super quiet.
Mhm.
And if you're in your quiet living room, that's okay. But once you get into the car with all the road noise, when it goes to the quiet parts, it's too quiet and you can't hear it. So you end up turning up the volume, and then it goes to the loud parts and it's too loud.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
Interesting.
they compress it. So they say, okay, let's bring the loud parts down and the soft parts up. And so then you can kind of just set your volume knob right there, and you can kind of set it above the ambient noise level of the car or whatever the environment is, and you can still hear the loud parts and the soft parts. So compressing music it was a good feature for listening to music in mobile environments and stuff. And then people just got used to the sound of that, and they liked that limited dynamic range. And now it's just built into how we produce all music now. It all gets compressed and gets, EQ'd and stuff like that. So it's, even if you're just going to put it on Spotify, it still has to be mastered. But
Interesting.
anyway, you were going to give me a business advice. So yeah, so I'm
Give me
so
business
I'm
advice.
yeah, so it's good. So I'm
Yes,
putting
business
right.
advice.
I'm basically who do I now here's another problem though. So there was mastering studios,
Mhm.
and they would have this, really high end, they would have really high end equipment. And so it was most people could not get into it. And so you'd have to intern, and then you have to get a big business loan to get the equipment and all that kind of stuff. But then as the technology increased, by the time we got into the 90s, you could actually probably just with maybe 20 grand, you could build a mastering studio. And then you could get into this business where you could make, $1,500 to $3,000 for every album, and you could do one a day, if you can get the clients,
Yeah.
and so that would be a good business. And but then it got to the point to where the recording engineers were recording in computers, and then they could do the mastering in the computers themselves, and then they didn't need to hire a mastering engineer, and that cut out half of all mastering. Just, independent studios just collapsed.
Yeah.
And then why do people need to go to the mastering studio anymore if the recording engineer can do it for you? There's still some reasons why, having an outside person, objectively listening to the music and all that. So there's certain, maybe just the skill set is a little bit different. The speaker quality is a little bit different. So there's still reasons to go to a mastering engineer if it's affordable. If it's not affordable, there's no reason to kind of do it. People are just like, I'll let the recording engineer do it. So what you mastering guys like me are kind of, unless you're at the top level and you're hooked into Geffen or whatever, and they're still going to send you $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 for an album. Now guys like me have to make it very affordable for bands, so the bands will say, okay, we're going to send it to this guy, and we're not going to let the other guy do it. We're going to send it to this guy because it will be a little bit better, and will cost us $400. So now, what was in the 80s, $4,000 you can get for $400.
Yeah,
So
and well, the cost of living's gone the other way.
yeah,
So
well, the cost, right. So, but now so it has to be a part-time business for most guys. And there's not that many independent mastering guys anymore. And so what I'm basically doing is I'm going directly to bands, because my whole field is this extreme metal music, and people know me from that. Then I kind of just go right to those bands and I say, bands, if your recording engineer is going to probably master your music. But if you want to work with a 25-year professional who has all these, names, that he's produced or that he's mastered and stuff, and get for an affordable price a better quality version, then call me. And so it's kind of like they don't really need me usually. Some mixing engineers say they don't like doing mastering, so they will, send it off. But it's kind of like an optional thing. If you really want the highest fidelity, send it to me. Or if you're kind of just, whatever, then you won't. So it's kind of it's not that big of an audience. I'd say maybe half of bands still are interested in sending it out to an outside person, as long as it's affordable. So that's kind of what I'm appealing to.
yeah, but then
It's kind of a hard sell in some ways.
I was just gonna say, because they're just lazy now, and they, a lot of them don't care as much about quality. They just want to get it out.
They just want to get it out. And the guy that's recording, so they're sitting in a recording or mixing studio, and they got this, Joe Blow is recording the album, and he's been working on it for a month or whatever it is. And they're like, all right, so we're going to master your album now. Okay, that's cool. And just, I'll just give me a couple of days and I'll get it done and I'll send you the copy. All right, great. No problem. That's the way most usually works. Occasionally, when they have a relationship with an outside mastering engineer like me, they go, hey, Joe, we're going to have this mastered by an outside guy. And he goes, oh, okay. That's fine. And I'll prepare it for that. Yeah. And then they send it to me separately. And sometimes Joe, the engineer, does his own master. And then the band goes to me and say, can you beat Joe's master? And then I do. And I usually do beat it. And they're like, it's, not a ton better, but it's a little better. It's worth $400. Okay. And then that's kind of how it goes. It's not really that. It's sustainable as a part-time thing. If you've already kind of in a network like I am and stuff, it's sustainable as a little bit of additional income, and you're still helping bands and it's still making music sound better. And so it's good for audio quality in general. And then there's other stuff that bands are like, oh yeah, I put out 4 demos, when I was in my 20s, and I'd like you to take these 4 demos and bring them together into one CD and stuff like that too, compilations. So there's reasons, but it can't be a way you make your living really anymore, unless you're in one of these studios in LA or Manhattan and you're doing the big name stuff, or it's, part of your other job or whatever, so
it's all been consolidated. Yeah, it's all consolidated. Yeah. I think actually, I think Universal now is it Universal Music Group.
Is that Sony? Is the same thing?
Yep. Sony ATV. Now I think it's merged with Universal, and that's it. So there's one.
It's called Universal.
Yeah, basically there's one CEO, and he runs the ship. And but yeah, they scammed me once for over $10,000. Sony was running a scam out of like their executive studios, and their head of A&R for Jive Records, which was owned.
Jive. That's an old label. Yeah,
but it was at that point it was part of Sony Music Group.
Got bought out.
Yeah, so that was like their hip hop.
Right.
What's it called? The hip hop end of it. And I met Spike Lee's cousin, and he had pitched me this idea about starting, like, his friend was starting a what do you call it? A new news network. Like, okay, and like it was like based on fashion, and I had worked in modeling and worked in Hollywood, so I was like, okay, like whatever. And he wanted me to make like to start recording like the music for it. And long story short, I invested money into it, and then it turned out to be a fucking scam. And so,
Oh,
yeah, and it's amazing because it's like this $6 billion fucking company, right?
right,
That doesn't need to do those kinds of things is
right.
doing those kinds of things anyways. Like little side hustles with these predators, and then it was like,
Oh
yeah,
man.
and it's like, what am I gonna do? Sue Sony?
Oh
You know?
no, no, no. You'll spend just to get the case started. You'll spend 10 grand.
Yeah, exactly. And it was actually interestingly, I'm pretty sure that the guy who started the whole scam, it was like a big thing
Uh-huh.
back then, is related to Diddy. And
Oh, there you go.
yeah,
That
oh,
makes
like,
sense.
yeah, he looks like him. He's from the same neighborhood as him, and
Oh man.
like literally, like I was like, is that guy related to Diddy? And then years later, I'm doing research on Diddy and research on this guy, and they're like literally from the same exact neighborhood. And
Oh,
yeah, they have like it's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I think that's like it's a strange brother. His father was Diddy's father was. Ever seen the movie American Gangster with Denzel Washington
no.
about the biggest heroin dealers in the country?
Mhm. Yeah, I
Uh,
think I've heard the title, but I don't think I've heard that.
yeah. So Diddy's father was like in this heroin dealing gang in the Bronx, in Harlem, in the Bronx, and they were the wealthiest, most powerful heroin dealers. And Diddy was
Oh,
part of his gang, and Diddy's father was assassinated, and so he was raised by his single mother.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow, I did not know. Is that story out there?
yeah. Yes,
Oh,
Diddy's
okay.
father was assassinated when he was like 3 years old. So his father was a philanderer and probably, a womanizer and all that
Oh
stuff.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Part of the gang, of course. And
Yeah.
then on top of it, Diddy was a choir boy, a altar boy.
Oh, there you go.
So,
That makes
well,
sense.
yeah, so he has hypersexualized, womanizing father. He's raised
Yeah.
by a single mother,
Yeah.
raised by a gangster, and he was probably molested
Probably.
church,
Probably.
which would account for
Yeah.
his love for men, you know. So yeah. It,
Oh.
it's a, it was literally.
Is he in jail now?
I don't know what's going on with that thing. I think he's still there. I
He's
think
st-
he's, I think he's in prison with the same guy. Yeah, the same guy who killed the United Healthcare. You know the
oh,
yeah, they're in the same
Luigi something.
PG sign. Yeah, they're in the same.
Luigi Mangione, I think. I think I remember. Is his name?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They're in the same cell?
No, but they're in the same.
Wing or whatever. Same
Yeah,
block, cell
yeah, no
block.
block. Yeah.
That'd be funny if they're in the same cell. Feel sorry for Luigi.
For real.
Oh man. Well, dude, great conversation,
Yeah,
man. I
absolutely.
probably should
Probably should wrap
three
it up.
3 hours probably should wrap. We keep going. Let's do another one
I
soon.
know, man.
We'll do one with Nicole. I fucking wish Melissa were here because this is what we did together. It would have been a good,
Uh,
yeah.
well,
Yeah.
her spirit's here, man. You know.
Yeah. 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 It's a very interesting ride. But okay. Yeah, well, just stay in touch, man, and let's
Absolutely,
support
man.
whatever you're doing. You've got a workshop coming up.
Yeah, I do. I do. You know,
When's that going to be? It's in
3 weeks.
3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And I mean, have you guys done workshops together yet
No, we
before?
haven't. So this is our
Oh, okay. Yeah,
the
it'll be a
first
good learning
one.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're
Okay.
still learning the ins and outs of, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and you got to that whole market and stuff it's its own thing, and you got to figure that out, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't really have much of a business sense myself. I'm kind of on the artist side of things. I'm good at producing stuff, at making stuff, at being creative, but I don't know. I'm just kind of the business side of it. I'm like, a lot of artists are like that.
Yeah.
They just don't even want to be involved with it and stuff. That's how a lot of artists get taken advantage of, actually.
I
It's because
know.
they don't want to be involved in the business side of anything.
Yeah. Or if they
So
do, they just don't get it anyways, and they don't know any
they
better.
just they just don't get it. I mean, I have the brain. I mean, I could get it, but it's that's just I call that the money virus, though. I might have a money virus that I inherited from my mom.
Oh, yeah.
My mom calls herself a chronic under earner, right? So it's like you could develop a Lyme disease type of shadow complex, or you could inherit a chronic under earner shadow complex.
Yeah, well,
And
I
then
think
and
that
then
goes
that
into,
just makes you get turned off. You're like, business schmizness. And you kind of push away opportunities that
yeah.
you could be like, oh wow, there's something right there. Boom, I'll take that. And you could be on it. You have a filter that's filtering out possibilities for you.
I think that at some point in your lineage, someone thought they weren't good enough,
Right. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Definitely.
they got screwed
Yeah.
over, and
Yeah.
and then that family kind of curse.
Yeah. Family curse, family virus, we called it. I made money. I was involved in the medical marijuana business early on
Yeah.
in California. So there was one period where I made a lot of money.
Mhm.
And then when that whole thing crashed, once they legalized everything and just the whole industry changed and stuff like that, then I was out of that.
Yeah, I almost got into business with this director who directed all the biggest rappers in the 2000s. He had asked me if I wanted to go into business with him to do medical marijuana in New York
Yeah.
State. New York
Yeah.
State is highly regulated.
Right.
So if
Highly.
you get into it, you're right now you're a multi-millionaire. But
Oh yeah.
I just didn't have the money at the time, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
would have required a lot of greasing wheels and all that shit. And it's just,
Yeah. Like,
well,
there's also this that there's a ketamine therapy now, and psilocybin therapy and
yeah,
stuff is starting to take off, and that's going to be its own bubble.
probably, yeah, yeah. I see there's ketamine, what would you
Clinics.
clinics? Yeah, I see up here
Yeah.
in Oregon because I'm in Oregon where everything's fucking decriminalized.
Right.
Yeah, well, most of it. They're trying to bring it back now because they're like, whoops, because we weren't ready for that shit up here. And now, because now there's a huge epidemic of fentanyl and everything.
Oh, right, 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 right,
Yeah,
right. Well,
yeah.
that's coming in
I
through
mean, I'm
the
all for
things.
decriminalization, but the problem is like you can't just take away drugs from an addict and then let's just expect them to be okay. You have to put
No.
programs into place and
Right.
all that kind of stuff, and they didn't do that. I think they did it on purpose. But,
Yeah. And
these
a lot of all that kind of stuff, that was just these, that's this kind of nepotistic thing where as long as, you're so and so's, you're you're the mayor's cousin or whatever, the governor's,
yeah,
cousin or whatever. And then you have an in and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to start this homeless program, or I'm going to start this drug program and stuff. And they're like, okay, well, we'll give you access to funding and stuff. And then they don't really know what they're doing. And they're just, start up with these nonprofits and stuff. They're just, as long as you're connected, and it's like that's a big issue, is
mm,
all these people who have some kind of connection into public funds. And so they start up nonprofits to try to tap into those public funds, saying they're offering a public service, but they really don't have their soul in it.
no,
And it's just a way to put their sucker in there. And
mhm.
then so their programs all blow up because they're not really,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The energy they're putting into it isn't pure. It's
exactly,
even if
exactly.
some of it is at moments, it's very self-interested. But
Yeah.
I could get into maybe next time I can get into my ex was a whistleblower that took down George Soros's nonprofit, um,
Well,
Acorn.
he's still around.
Yeah, well, Acorn took down Occupy Wall Street. Uh,
Oh, right. Acorn. Yeah, I
yeah,
remember
yeah,
them.
she took down Acorn, and
Oh,
yeah. That's a long story I'll get into.
interesting. Yeah. Okay.
The whistleblower testified in front of Congress, all kinds of shit.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting. Oh,
Obama's
interesting.
election fraud. Obama committed it. She had proof. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I'll go into that one day. But the whole point was the people on the board of Acorn were starting up because it was an urban development, organization,
Yeah.
and so they
Right.
were starting up nonprofits with government money. That all failed, but they were just paying themselves with public money. So that's what
Oh,
it was.
yeah.
That's what.
That's everywhere. That's everywhere. Parasitism.
Yep.
All
Yeah,
right,
man.
buddy.
All right, bud.
Great talking to you.
Yeah, I'm glad we connected, and yeah, let's figure out, when the three of us would.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's just ask Nicole, and I'll be here.
Good deal,
We'll do it
man.
again. All right,
All right,
man.
brother.
Have a great evening.
Hey, man. You too. All right.
All right, talk to you later.